different intentions. For us, super fungi and others are all foreign entities, just as we are to them. In this situation, as long as we are on this planet, with limited resources, coexistence is impossible. The only way to bring spring to our civilization is to eliminate the foreign entities. If our survivor base in Fengtian is breached today, we could face a massacre, with hundreds of thousands being slaughtered. I suggest we concentrate our resources for war preparation. If the survivor base is breached, everything will be over. Wu Jinxiu then asked, Deputy Yi, how is the situation in Kyoto? Can they hold out? Do they need our reinforcements? For now, they do not need assistance. The military strength in Kyoto is robust, and the scale of their survivor base is more than 5 times that of Fengtian's. They have ample manpower and resources. And although they face 4 resurgent civilizations, they can still confront them. Kyoto only requests that we protect civilians as much as possible and hold the survivor base firmly, so as not to become the next Hong City, Yi and Shan replied. What Commander Qian said is exactly what I wanted to convey. We are in a precarious situation right now, and I hope everyone can unite to resist external enemies. Humanity has reached a critical moment of survival, and we must work together. Professor Chun, next, we will be in contact with the super fungi. I need your research center to form a professional team to see if we can obtain information about everything from the super fungi. This is crucial. Professor Chen responded, I understand. Our progress on the research of super fungi has been smooth. Today's preliminary drug trials on live super fungi indicate that the B-type drug provided by Wang Cheng has a certain lethality against them, giving us some confidence in negotiations. Is there an effect? Professor Chen didn't mention it, and Wang Cheng was unaware that the drug he developed had proven effective in tests. Zhang Songtong laughed and said, of course. The results just came out today, and I haven't had the chance to mention it. However, the current experiments show that while the B-type drug you provided, Wang Cheng, is effective, the results are not very impressive. The lethality against super fungi is low, and it may not necessarily cure infected individuals. It can only barely suppress the infection process in mild cases. Still, this is a breakthrough from 0 to 1, and by continuing to develop your drug, we should be able to quickly create a more efficient treatment for super fungi infections. Speaking of research, Professor Chen also became interested. He hadn't said much during the previous military discussions, but now he took the initiative to say, this is remarkable, Wang Cheng. The B-type drug you provided has directly shortened our research and development time and helped us find direction, saving us at least 13 days. Everyone's attention shifted back to him, all surprised. Unexpectedly, the city has produced a drug capable of resisting super fungi, and it has proven effective. This is undoubtedly a shot in the arm, further astonishing many people about the technological strength possessed by the city. This time, no one doubts that the warships are provided by a certain individual. The technology demonstrated by the city's aircraft and the special drug at this moment is something that neither that individual nor the survivor's base could have produced, making it impossible for anyone from that base to have supplied it to the city. The source can only be the city itself. This seems to further solidify the fact that the city comes from an ancient, revived civilization with advanced technology. Many skeptics gradually changed their attitudes, and their gazes towards the city became complex. They seemed to understand why that individual steadfastly chose to cooperate with the city. Because the city possesses not only military power, but also the ability to bring technology to the survivor's base and humanity. This drug shortened the research and development time by 13 days, which means that the survivor's base can quickly implement measures against super fungi and prevent infections from spreading. This is undoubtedly good news for the entire survivor's base. A key figure even looked towards the city and said earnestly, "Thank you for your contribution to the survivor's base. It is our honor to collaborate with you." The city merely smiled slightly. The high-level meeting quickly concluded. The recent major battle had just ended, and everyone present was a key figure in their respective fields, with urgent matters to attend to. As the meeting ended, everyone dispersed, but one individual, after leaving the headquarters, proactively stepped forward to present a business card to the city. "Nice to meet you, Mr. City. If you need anything within the survivor's base, whether it's manpower, production lines, or even weapons, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to help. We have a bit of influence here." This individual was extending an olive branch. Others speculated that the city might also be a being from a revived civilization and approached with caution, so they were reluctant to engage much, at most exchanging a few polite words. Only this individual took the initiative. The city had actually been in the survivor's base for some time, but had not heard much about the influence of certain financial magnates there. However, the fact that this individual was invited to the high-level meeting indicated otherwise. The city hadn't heard of it, perhaps due to a lack of prior exposure. So he believed this individual's words. Thus, the city accepted the business card without hesitation. Seeing this, the individual said no more, understanding the right moment, smiled, shook hands with the city, and then left in a luxury car. Meanwhile, the city boarded a warship, which quickly started and swept past the luxury car. heading towards the Eastern District. In the 13th floor of the headquarters building, the meeting room was empty, leaving only that individual and another who had not yet left. He actively stayed behind, reaching out to stop Yanshan, and said softly, "Deputy Yi, I understand your point. Collaborating with this kingdom is beneficial for us at the moment. If what the super fungi and the cloud-based beings say is true, the civilization behind this kingdom has very few individuals left, which is why they are cooperating with us. However, I want to remind you that this kingdom is almost certainly a resurrected civilization, possessing advanced technologies and capabilities beyond our imagination. Even if we cooperate, we must be clear that they, like the super fungi, are an alien race. We must be cautious of them." Yanshan turned his head, gazing at the instructor Qian in front of him, and after a moment, slowly nodded. "I understand, Instructor Qian, I can handle this matter appropriately." Chapter 214. The Kingdom in Action. Second brother, what did they say? This is a high-level meeting. You're amazing. I've never heard of an ordinary survivor being able to attend such a meeting. Surely, something significant was discussed, right? There are big figures involved. As soon as the kingdom returned to the warship, Zhang Chao eagerly approached, excited as if he had attended the meeting himself. Although Su Xinghai didn't speak, his gaze was filled with curiosity. Before the kingdom could speak, Xu Bing coldly interjected, "It's a confidential meeting and cannot be disclosed to outsiders." The kingdom, Zhang Chao. Xu Bing stared at him, and the kingdom didn't have the chance to say anything even if he wanted to. Of course, the kingdom didn't have much to say anyway. There was a lot discussed in the meeting, but very little that Zhang Chao and the others needed to know. Revealing it might cause unnecessary alarm, so he just smiled and said, "It's nothing, just that someone mentioned I was an alien again." Zhang Chao's lips twitched. Su Xinghai then said softly, "Kingdom, whether you are human or something else, both I and the third brother are very clear that we absolutely believe you are the kingdom we know. I also understand that you are using this identity as a cover, and I want to ask what your secret is. However, as the leader, I have to remind you to be cautious. This identity can bring many benefits, but it also invites suspicion. Especially since we just fought against those super fungi and cloud-based beings, they might be wary of you." Su Xinghai's words, though not pleasant to hear, were sincere. Only someone truly close could express such thoughts. The kingdom nodded and said, "Don't worry, I understand, and their wariness of me won't significantly impact us." Su Xinghai noticed that the kingdom used the word us. He paused for a moment, then smiled slightly, patting the kingdom's shoulder, and said, "That's good." What the kingdom said was not meant to comfort Su Xinghai. Su Xinghai's reasoning was well understood by Wang Cheng. He knew that using his identity as a reviver of civilization to cooperate with the military would inevitably arouse suspicion from them. However, this had little impact on Wang Cheng, as what he needed at this stage was a living environment in the region and the military's firepower support. He intended to leverage the military's numerical advantage to compensate for the shortcomings of his solitary ship. In terms of real technology and resources, Wang Cheng did not depend on the military. Once the level of his warships improved several tiers, he could even operate without the military altogether. The military's suspicion and doubt had no effect on him. Let them doubt. Wang Cheng had enough confidence. Su Xinghai then pulled the overly excited Zhang Chao aside and said in a serious tone, "So what do we need to do next?" Wang Cheng glanced at the still somewhat empty bridge, smiled, and pointed to it, saying, "The first thing we need to do is find your positions here. As you can see, this thing is getting bigger and will become even larger in the future with more functions. It's no longer something I can operate alone. I need absolutely reliable crew members. Today is just a trial run. There are many functional areas on the warship that you can explore. You can see what areas you want to be responsible for. Although those functions are not complex or complete yet, believe me, you will soon be very busy." Su Xinghai was momentarily taken aback, exchanged a glance with Zhang Chao, and smiled, saying, "I see. You want your two fathers to work for you. We need to consider that." But Zhang Chao, who had just been excited, now tried to maintain a serious expression, scanning the area and joking, "Yes, second brother. You need to give us some benefits." In a corner, Xu Bing watched this scene, and a faint hint of warmth appeared on her otherwise cold face. The journey of a great ship requires not only a captain, but also capable sailors. The super fungus kept its promise and removed a large number of infected individuals overnight, leaving only one infected representative to communicate with the military. The super fungus also contacted the strange beings and cloud life as per Wang Cheng's request. The strange beings, being the weakest, had little choice in this situation and could only temporarily coexist with the super fungus. The cloud life was non-committal to Wang Cheng's proposals. Despite suffering heavy losses in the battle at the survivor base, they still did not regard humans or Wang Cheng as a threat, showing no reaction to his power. As a result, Wang Cheng's level 6 warship took off directly from the survivor base, using the locations of some cloud beings provided by the super fungus to traverse the region, relentlessly hunting down the fleeing cloud life. For everyone found, he would annihilate it. After the battle at the survivor base, they had already been scattered and were now being ruthlessly betrayed by the super fungus. With Wang Cheng pursuing them throughout the region, many even fleeing to other areas, facing extreme suppression, they still stubbornly refused to admit defeat, shouting frantically while being pursued by the royal city, "We will make a comeback. You and your human friends will become the nourishment for the growth of our civilization. That day will come soon, and you 1T have many good days left." In response, the royal city immediately retaliated with a powerful strike. Anyone who dared to act arrogantly would be met with lethal force. The super fungi had no need to shield the cloud life forms, as they were not of the same species or civilization. The conflict between the royal city and the cloud life forms suited their interests perfectly. However, the royal city did not care. It aimed to showcase its military power and absolute authority. It declared that anyone who dared to continue the war would be annihilated. And if the cloud life forms dared to resist, it would strike back hard. After all, with its rapid advance, even if it only took down one cloud life form, the energy points gained from that would be sufficient to cover the cost of a single attack. Although the super fungi and strange creatures watched from the sidelines, they were also intimidated by the royal city's imposing demeanor and dared not act rashly. The fierce reputation of the royal city spread throughout the survivor base in the region, and both military and government personnel treated the royal city with a degree of respect, at least on the surface. The region entered a state of civilizational confrontation. The survivor base began to recover and rebuild, recruiting from among the survivors as planned, while the research center tirelessly worked on developing special medications to combat the super fungi and methods to identify the infected. The royal city had already pointed them in the right direction, but now it was up to the research center to make further progress. In addition, the military showed its willingness to cooperate by providing a large quantity of weapons and ammunition to replenish the royal city's arsenal, reducing its reliance on energy points for ammunition production. Even in the apocalypse, the military had production lines, and collaborating with them not only mitigated the royal city's initial disadvantage of being a lone ship, but also allowed for a joint resolution of threats like the cloud life forms, while directly obtaining material support from the military. This was a condition that the royal city had agreed upon with the military from the start. While the military would not casually provide heavy weapons, conventional arms were still on the table. Of course, there was also the crucial aspect of information sharing. Although the current communication network of the Federation was poor, its powerful intelligence network and logistical support capabilities were still greatly needed by the royal city at this stage. With the military's assistance in this area, the royal city could save a lot of time and energy on upgrading its warships and gain another channel for obtaining overall information, ensuring it would not miss changes in the unpredictable apocalyptic situation. Furthermore, the royal city's demands from the military included ensuring better living conditions for its personnel at the survivor base, prioritizing medical care, daily supplies, and advanced technological achievements, all while maintaining their current residences. After a day's rest, the royal city continued hunting down the cloud life forms and delved into the old urban area of the region to hunt mutant creatures, as they were all sources of energy points. 3 days after the Battle of Pingfeng Mountain, the battleships of the royal city hovered at low altitude over the old urban area of Fengtian, skimming past a 20-story office building. This was once the central business district of Fengtian City, filled with towering skyscrapers that thrived in the pre-apocalypse era. Now, however, it was a scene of devastation, with ruins scattered everywhere. Nearby, a tall building had collapsed like a pillar of heaven, with debris strewn all around. The building that the royal city passed was particularly battered, its surfaces charred, glass shattered, and staircases leaning to one side. Inside this building, a mutated giant snake worth 200 energy points was coiled and hiding among the 20-plus floors. The royal city unleashed a barrage of firepower from outside, ruthlessly crushing and eliminating the beast within the abandoned skyscraper. With the 200 energy points credited, the royal city's total reached 15,000 points. High-value prey was rare, especially after the cloud creatures had been wiped out, leaving the royal city with fewer opportunities to rapidly accumulate energy points. It could only navigate the urban area, hunting ordinary mutated creatures to earn points, which naturally slowed the accumulation rate. The battleship's ability and efficiency in harvesting mutated creatures had significantly improved, but so had the consumption. However, the royal city understood that there was no need to rush. Progress had to be made step by step. This hunting process also served as an opportunity to acclimate the fleet members. Xu Bing was in charge of the turbo laser cannon, while Zhang Chao found his preferred position, controlling the missile system and machine guns. The battleship was equipped with tracking missiles embedded with smart chips that could alter their flight paths based on manual control to pursue enemies. Previously, the royal city had no time to utilize this feature, relying instead on overwhelming firepower to obliterate targets. With Zhang Chao's arrival, They could now manually control tracking missiles for precise strikes, ensuring that if one missile could do the job, a second was unnecessary, thus saving considerable energy points. Su Xinghai, on the other hand, was not particularly interested in combat and took on administrative responsibilities and inspections within the battleship. At this stage, the battleship's functions were not very comprehensive, so Su Xinghai found himself quite idle during operations. However, the royal city was well aware that as the battleship grew larger in the future, Su Xinghai's role would become one of the busiest. As they gradually adapted, many subtle functions of the battleship were uncovered. For instance, the royal city was surprised to discover that the battleship had a repair box, allowing crew members to manually patch up some of the ship's wounds. Additionally, each compartment of the battleship was equipped with an independent temperature control system and a low-energy mode. While the battleship's combat functions operated at full power, other non-combat modules could run in low-energy mode, directly reducing the royal city's energy consumption. As the battleship expanded, its intricate features increased, and it became increasingly difficult for one person to monitor all these aspects. Now, these subtle functions have been unearthed, and the overall strength of the war is gradually growing stronger as Zhang Chao, Su Xinghai, and others become more familiar with the warship. Zhang Chao and his team are enjoying this process. Every expedition excites Zhang Chao, while Su Xinghai exhibits a strong sense of ownership, treating the warship like a treasure, even more so than the city itself. The hunting in the urban area concluded on the third day. As dusk approached, with the sunset resembling blood, the team returned to the survivor base in the city of Fengtian, docking the warship directly within the residential area. Although the warship's size could still fit within the area, it felt somewhat cramped. After Shubbing and the others left the warship, the captain remained, heading to the energy chamber of the warship, where he retrieved an irregular energy crystal. As soon as he took out the energy crystal, it shattered in his palm, turning into a powdery state. The energy within it had been completely depleted. The energy in the second irregular energy crystal had also diminished by about 10%. Shaking the dust from his hands, the captain took a deep breath. The higher the level of the warship, the greater the consumption. This last irregular energy crystal would not last much longer. The warship's endurance relying solely on conventional energy sources was somewhat inadequate, and he needed to find alternatives. Using conventional fossil fuels was not ideal, so the captain hoped to find a few more irregular energy crystals. Perhaps he could return to the coastal city to check where that meteorite had landed. Maybe he could find similar energy materials there. With this thought in mind, he returned to his captain's seat on the bridge and called out to the system. System, open the black technology treasure chest. It had been 3 days since the battle at Pingfeng Mountain ended, and everything was on track. The brief peace and tranquility were the perfect opportunity to open the mystery boxes. Chapter 215, Miniature Nuclear Weapons. Dear host, you currently have 24 black technology resource treasure chests. Among them, 21 Level 1 Black Technology Resource Treasure Chests, 2 Level 2 Black Technology Resource Treasure Chests, 3 Level 3 Black Technology Resource Treasure Chests. Would you like to open them all? The Black Technology Resource Treasure Chests can only be obtained by hunting intelligent life forms. And like obtaining special serums from hunting high-energy creatures, the drop rate and quantity are random and based on probability, with stronger targets seemingly yielding higher levels. Furthermore, similar to hunting high-energy creatures, the higher the level of the serum, the lower the drop rate. The captain had obtained a total of 24 black technology treasure chests, with only 2 at level 2 and just 1 at level 3, indicating the disparity. Previously, when hunting high-energy creatures, even when facing level 5 mutated beings, the extracted serums were predominantly level 1, with occasional level 2 ones. This shows that the system's drop rates are not entirely tied to the target's level and scale, but involve a multifaceted evaluation mechanism. These black technology resource treasure chests were obtained from previous battles against cloud life forms and super fungi. The more he fought, the more he gained. Though there seemed to be differences. For instance, the drop rate for cloud life forms was relatively high, while that for super fungi appeared lower. It seems that there is some hidden mechanism behind this, because logically speaking, the number of super fungi eliminated by the city far exceeds the life forms in the cloud. At this moment, the city had time to activate. Without hesitation, it was all activated. The high-tech resource chest is being opened. The current open chest is Level 1 High-Tech Resource, Chest 21. All current level resource chests have been opened. Congratulations, esteemed host, you have obtained 523 energy points, 1 strange AI dialogue figurine, 1 laser pistol, a set of high-efficiency solar panels, a pair of power amplification gloves, 1 multifunctional toolbox, a set of nano-communication devices, 2, and 1 flying toy dinosaur for infants. Everything was printed out. The city was somewhat dumbfounded. Out of 21 high-tech chests, he had at least opened 18 items. The system took quite a while to read them all, and after listening for a while, he was so stunned that he nearly forgot what he had received. Moreover, What was this flying toy dinosaur for infants? The high-tech resource chest could yield anything, from powerful combat weapons and medical drugs to strange AI dialogue machines and infant toys. However, in the past, the chests opened by the city were mostly single digits, and the chances of getting a mix of odd items were relatively low. As the warship's 3D printing system operated, these items were printed out one after another, almost piling up to a small hill in the captain's seat of the city. Among them were quite a few odd items. The city picked up the flying toy dinosaur and tried it out, only to be astonished. A fluffy toy dinosaur that could really fly. Pressing a button made it soar into the sky, and it could even be voice-controlled to fly in any direction. It was indeed a toy dinosaur from the high-tech resource chest. The city took it down and searched for quite a while, but couldn't figure out how it could fly and respond to voice control. Children would definitely love it. But unfortunately, he didn't have any kids yet. Holding this cute, fluffy toy, the city couldn't help but feel a sense of longing. After thinking for a moment, he decided to keep it and planned to give it to Shubing later. No, Shubing wouldn't he do? It should be for Xiaqin, as she has worked hard taking care of my parents. Although it's named an infant toy, it's actually quite cute and should appeal to girls. Then the city began to sift through the 18 high-tech items, many of which were similar to the flying toy dinosaur, useful but not applicable to him. However, there were still some that were quite practical, such as the nano-communication devices, multifunctional toolbox, and laser pistol, among others. That was an energy weapon. In a direct gunfight, its penetration and lethality far exceeded that of standard handguns. After researching, the city discovered that another solar panel he had opened could even be used to charge the laser pistol. In addition, the power amplification device seems to be quite useful. It is a mechanical glove worn on the arm. Wang Chung curiously tested it and found that it could not only lift heavy objects, but could also raise a vehicle weighing several tons with ease. With a maintenance team for the battleship now formed, this device should come in handy. Wang Chung sorted the useful items from the useless ones into 2 piles, preparing to distribute them later. As many items he couldn't use could be given to those around him. Subsequently, Wang Chung continued to open boxes, starting with 2 secondary high-tech treasure chests. From the 2 secondary high-tech treasure chests, he obtained a total of 250 energy points and 2 high-tech items. One of them was something Wang Chung had opened before, a high-tech nano-intelligent mechanical capsule. Previously, he had only acquired 3 pieces from a primary resource chest. But this time, the secondary chest yielded a total of 10 pieces. Although Wang Chung felt a bit disappointed, he recognized the usefulness of the medication and carefully stored it away, even considering sending one to Zhang Tsongtong to see if it could be replicated for research. The second item was a pair of anti-gravity boots. When worn, they allowed the user to ascend vertically. Wang Chung tried them out on the bridge, and to his surprise, the effect was astonishingly good. As soon as he activated them, his body shot up like a rocket and collided with the ceiling of the bridge. Accompanied by a scream, Captain Wang Chung, who even frightened the super fungi, covered his head as he fell back down. That hurt a lot. Wang Chung estimated that if he weren't a secondary awakened individual, that impact could have sent him straight to the hospital. However, the loss of control at first was due to his unfamiliarity with the boots. Once he got accustomed to them, he discovered how useful they were. With the anti-gravity boots, he could fly around the battleship without touching the ground, gliding at low altitude at incredible speed. He could cover the distance from the bridge to the end of the ship in just a few breaths. Of course, while the anti-gravity boots were fast, navigating the complex terrain of the battleship at full speed led to a few collisions with walls, the consequences of which were yet to be determined. These boots were indeed convenient equipment. When worn, they not only had anti-gravity functionality, but were also very comfortable. When the anti-gravity feature was turned off, they could be used like regular boots, making it impossible for others outside to tell that they were anti-gravity boots. Moreover, they could be charged with the solar panels just acquired. Once Wang Chung put them on, he didn't take them off again. At this moment, he shifted his gaze and opened the last high-tech treasure chest of level 3. Dear host, the level 3 high-tech resource chest is now being opened. The current high-tech resource chest has been opened. Congratulations, esteemed host, you have obtained 1 micronuclear warhead, yield of 30 tons. Upon hearing this description from the system, Wang Chung nearly fell out of his seat. Could it be that a nuclear weapon was actually obtained? As the warhead materialized, a round object appeared before Wang Chung. Its volume is only slightly larger than the miniature cloud explosion device obtained last time, appearing a bit heavier. With the awakening of the second-level power, Wang Chung feels no weight while holding it. His expression is peculiar. The third-level advanced technology treasure chest has really yielded a nuclear weapon, a nuclear warhead with a yield of 30 tons. Of course, with such a small yield, the lethal radius is only about 1 or 2 kilometers, but its power is undeniable. Wang Chung never expected that after boasting about holding nuclear weapons, he would actually receive one. Now, Wang Cheng's nuclear deterrent capability can truly be regarded as real nuclear deterrence. with the nuclear weapon in hand. He feels an inexplicable sense of power, as if he could launch it at any moment. A 30-ton nuclear weapon is enough to obliterate Pingfeng Mountain. No matter how many super fungi there are, they would melt away in the heat and radiation, torn apart by the explosion. And microscopic life forms would not be able to hide at the center of the nuclear blast. Of course, even with a 30-ton yield, if he were to launch it, the command center of the survivor base would likely not remain calm. Wang Chung weighed it in his hand. The highly enriched uranium inside this miniature nuclear weapon is not much, and combined with the weight of the warhead, it might not even reach 1 ton. He carefully placed it in the battleship. The 30-ton yield refers to the explosive power equivalent to 30 tons of TNT, not the weight of the nuclear bomb itself. Although this device is absolutely safe when not detonated, Wang Chung does not dare to be careless. Even without detonation, a leak would be a serious issue. Now, Wang Chung can be said to have 2 lethal weapons in his possession. One is the miniature cloud explosion device, and the other is the nuclear weapon. The lethal radius of the cloud explosion device is far smaller than that of the miniature nuclear weapon, and it can be considered a throwing weapon, whereas the nuclear weapon can be used as a missile warhead. Wang Chung slowly put it away. The miniature cloud explosion device is on him, while the nuclear weapon is secured in a safe box on the battlefield, ready to be activated at a critical moment. In fact, Yi Anshan and the people from the command are worried about environmental issues caused by a nuclear explosion. Wang Chung is also human, and he cannot use nuclear weapons recklessly. He and his family need to survive on Earth. There's no way to escape to space right now. Therefore, Wang Chung cannot launch nuclear weapons at will. Even if he doesn't care about harming others, harming himself would be foolish. In reality, with the Federation's nuclear reserves, if they were truly reckless, a global nuclear winter would mean no one would survive, including mutated creatures. Humanity would face extinction. Thus, using nuclear weapons has always been a taboo option. Even if it seems fine to use nuclear weapons in a small area, if everyone thinks that way and uses them, the situation would be entirely different. Wang Chung felt a bit emotional. No wonder after killing so many intelligent beings, the 3rd-level Advanced Technology Resource Pack only yielded 1 item. The items in the 3rd-level Advanced Technology Treasure Chest are definitely of a higher tier than those from the 2nd-level Advanced Technology Treasure Chest. What did the 2nd-level Advanced Technology Treasure Chest produce? A palm-sized cloud explosive, anti-gravity boots, and a level 3 high-tech treasure chest opens, directly revealing a nuclear weapon with a yield of 30 tons. The higher the level of the treasure chest, the harder it is to obtain the special serum, because the items it contains are more powerful. Wang Chung transforms into a nuclear individual. Stepping off the battleship, he walks with a newfound steadiness and confidence. Of course, to the outside world, this actually makes no difference, because whether it's Yi Anshan or the super fungus, in their eyes, Wang Chung has long been a nuclear individual, possessing more than 1 nuclear weapon, and is someone who could casually toss a nuclear bomb at any moment. Therefore, only Wang Chung himself knows that this time he is not just pretending. He truly has nuclear capability, and even the smallest nuclear bomb is still a nuclear bomb. Who doesn't believe I have a nuclear bomb? I could just throw out a deterrent. Others want to know that I actually only have this one. Chapter 216. Worried Chenjigua. Wang Chung stepped off the battleship, and the sky had completely darkened. Not far away, Ma Tian saw Wang Chung returning, and he hurriedly ran down from his property building, not doing anything else but to greet Wang Chung from a distance. When Wang Chung nodded in acknowledgement, Ma Tian happily ran back upstairs. Wang Chung found this Ma Tian quite amusing. But it must be said that such a person is indeed the type that can survive in the apocalypse. He glanced around and noticed that Xu Bing had already left. Although Xu Bing followed Wang Chung every day, her actual role was to keep an eye on him for Yi Anshan. After finishing her work with Wang Chung, she had to go report back to Yi Anshan. At this moment, she had already ridden off on her motorcycle. Wang Chung then proceeded upstairs. His status within the Fengtian survivor base had risen significantly, and his identity had become exceptionally special. Within 3 days, his name had spread everywhere, and the survivors living here greeted him with great enthusiasm and respect. Wang Chung was pleased with this, as it meant his parents would have a better living situation here. Yi Anshan had suggested moving Wang Cheng's people to the central district of the Fengtian survivor base, even planning to set up a helipad specifically for Wang Cheng's battleship. But Wang Chung had refused. While the central district is the core of Fengtian, it is also crowded, which brings about much trouble. During the last high-level meeting, Wang Chung had witnessed the chaos firsthand. Moreover, there was also the lesson learned from the previous battle in the Western District. He had no need to involve his family in such matters. Upon reaching the upstairs, he saw Xiaqin and the elders preparing dinner. The meals here had nearly returned to pre-apocalypse standards. This was something Wang Chung had specifically requested from Yi Anshan. He wanted the privilege of sufficient food and vegetable supplies. Not for himself, but to ensure his parents ate well. As a child, fulfilling one's filial duty is what Wang Chung should do. He is selfish. As he rises to success, he naturally wants those around him to enjoy a good life as well. Wang Qing's parents were very content. They had experienced the anxiety of the early apocalypse, witnessed death and despair, and knew what life was like for the lower class in the survivor base. In this context, they were very aware that their current life, with meat and vegetables at every meal and fruit every day, surpassed that of over 90% of the population in their region. Yu Jixing and others were especially warm towards the elderly couple. As Wang Cheng had not treated them poorly, they enjoyed almost the same privileges as his parents. Before coming to this place, they had never imagined they could live such a life during the apocalypse. They were incredibly grateful to Wang Cheng and didn't know how to repay him. So they would gather around the elderly couple every day. This was exactly what Wang Cheng wanted. He was extremely busy upgrading the battleship to combat the resurgent civilization, constantly walking on the edge of danger, and always needed someone to help with the unfinished tasks. Just as Wang Cheng arrived, it was time for dinner. Yuan Rue and Xiaqin were bringing out plates of rare post-apocalyptic vegetables together, and Zhang Chao came running over. Still as loud and boisterous as ever after nearly 2 months of survival. Wang Qing thought for a moment and handed a plush toy he had brought from the battleship to Xiaqin. When Xiaqin saw the little dinosaur he handed her, she was momentarily stunned and laughed. "Are you trying to cheer up a child?" Wang Qing chuckled awkwardly. "I didn't mean it that way. I just happened to have one and no one else to give it to, so I thought of you. Besides, you've been taking care of my parents. And I have nothing else to thank you with." Xiaqin smiled gently. "All right, it's quite cute. I like it." However, Wang Qing's mother, who was nearby, saw this and said, "You want to thank her, and this is how you do it? Just a small plush toy? Are you a bit thick-headed? Huh?" In the entire region, besides Wang Qing's mother, there were probably not many who dared to speak to him like that anymore. Wang Qing forced a smile and said, "This isn't just any plush toy. Look, it can fly." He proceeded to demonstrate for Xiaqin. Watching this scene, Xiaqin was a bit stunned. Then couldn't he help but chuckle. Meanwhile, Wang Qing's mother looked at them with a somewhat disapproving expression and huffed before sitting back down. Su Xinghai observed Wang Cheng and Xiaqin, then glanced at Wang Qing's mother. In this regard, he was a bit smarter than Wang Cheng and vaguely sensed his mother's thoughts, so he smiled and walked over to chat with her to divert her attention. Wang Cheng also smiled. It was good to give something away, and seeing Xiaqin happy made him feel good. He began to think about who to give the other scraps to. Perhaps Wang Qing's mother was overthinking it, but he wasn't worrying too much. He simply wanted to maximize the use of resources from the battleship. Even things that were useless to him could be sent out to serve a purpose elsewhere. It was nice to do someone a favor. Xiaqin, holding the flying dinosaur toy, inexplicably glanced at Wang Cheng a bit longer. It was a peaceful meal, with everyone sitting together, laughing, chatting, and enjoying the long-lost tranquility amidst the apocalypse. After dinner, Wang Cheng began to organize things with Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao. The dangers and crises of hunting monsters and confronting foreign tribes seemed to meld away in the gentle and peaceful atmosphere here, feeling the tranquility flowing through the space. Wang Cheng thought that all the bloodshed at Pingfeng Mountain was worth it. As night fell, the survivor base gradually quieted down, and Wang Cheng went downstairs to find Chen Jigua. Chen Jigua had been waiting for Wang Cheng for some time. In recent days, Chen Jigua's life could be described as smooth sailing, yet he felt a bit apprehensive. It was smooth sailing because of his connection with Wang Cheng. Whether it was Ma Tian or those outside, everyone treated him with courtesy. Among ordinary survivors, no one dared to offend someone who had just arrived at this place a few days ago. However, he felt apprehensive because after Wang Cheng assigned him a task and urgently sent him into action, he hadn't heard from Wang Cheng for the past 3 to 4 days. Wang Cheng was too busy. He had just resolved the issue with the super fungus and immediately started hunting mutated creatures to gather energy points. Chen Jigua could see Wang Cheng's busyness. Since Wang Cheng didn't seek him out, he didn't dare to disturb him, fearing that he might annoy Wang Cheng. Yet he was very worried that after Wang Cheng entrusted him with such a precious advanced motorcycle, Wang Cheng hadn't contacted him for 3 days. Would he have changed his mind and no longer want to use him? Therefore, Chen Jigua had no choice but to wait in the garage every day, hoping for a moment when Wang Cheng would be free to find him, so he could promptly report on his progress with the advanced motorcycle and strive to meet Wang Cheng's expectations. Chen Jigua was very dedicated to the task Wang Cheng had given him. During these days, he took the advanced motorcycle out for training every day, careful not to let others see that he recognized its value. He understood the technology behind the motorcycle that Wang Cheng seemingly casually handed over. However, Chen Jigua's worries didn't end there. In recent days, he had enjoyed some benefits and heard many rumors circulating outside. Wang Cheng was becoming well known, but there were also many unfavorable rumors about him. "Brother, do you think Wang Cheng could really be an alien?" "Oh my, an alien in human skin. Just like those outrageous rumors about the super fungus. Is he trying to lure us and only to devour us later?" In the garage, the silver advanced motorcycle was parked on one side, while Li Fang's Han was at the garage entrance cooking soup, the aroma of meat wafting through the air. Ordinary survivors passing by couldn't help but glance over, enviously swallowing their saliva, but they likely knew that the people here were not easy to deal with. So they quickly left. As the owner of the soup, Li Fang's seemed less concerned about it, absent-mindedly stirring the soup, and turned to ask the worried Chen Jigua behind him. Hearing this, Chen Jigua furrowed his brow. No way, how could that be possible? Who is Wang Cheng's brother? You already know, and if he really had issues, would the survivor base in the region accept him? Don't listen to those foolish rumors outside. Stop overthinking. Quickly, make me some soup. Li Fang's was scolded by Chen Jigua, feeling utterly humiliated. He shrank his neck and said softly, I'm just worried about you. Chen Jigua shot him a glare, and this time, Li Fang's fell completely silent. But only Chen Jigua knew that he too was deeply troubled. Although his scolding of Li Fang's was rational and justified, people often can't help but let their minds wander. Damn it, those rumors outside are truly bizarre. Everywhere they say that Wang Cheng's brother is not human. If that's true, should I really follow him? I'm just an ordinary person. How can I keep up with someone so extraordinary? But wait, others are trying to curry favor with Wang Cheng's brother, and I've finally established a connection. Why am I worrying here? If there really is an issue, wouldn't the deputy leader intervene? I've interacted with Wang Cheng for quite some time, and he doesn't seem as bizarre as the rumors suggest. That means Wang Cheng is definitely fine, right? Sitting by the pot, Chen Jigua's brow furrowed deeper. His thoughts a chaotic mess. In front of him, a piece of rib was simmering in the pot. Before the apocalypse, this was something anyone could easily buy, but now, within the survivor base, it wasn't something just anyone could eat. Chen Jigua managed to get this because of his connection with Wang Cheng. Others knew about their relationship and sold it to him. In recent days, Chen Jigua had gained quite a bit of favor within the survivor base. Wherever he went, people greeted him with smiles. In many places, he could trade items without even needing to pay. Chen Jigua wasn't naive. He was a survivor from a city who had just arrived and was receiving such treatment for obvious reasons. He knew many envied his relationship with Wang Cheng and the life he was living now. But who would have thought that the Chen Jigua people envied was currently squatting by the soup pot like a beggar, anxious and worried. He was torn between fearing that Wang Cheng wasn't human and hesitating about whether to follow him, while also fearing that Wang Cheng might not need them anymore. Caught in this strange psychological struggle, Chen Jigua's brows were nearly knitted together, and a lingering worry shadowed his face. Chen Jigua was actually quite a character before the apocalypse. He was a small but successful businessman. After the end of the world, he had relied on his strong mental resilience and keen observation skills to build his own influence. Among ordinary survivors, he was doing reasonably well and wasn't someone who would usually get entangled in such dilemmas. However, this situation was too significant. Chen Jigua understood that if he managed his relationship with Wang Cheng well and made the right choices, he could soar to great heights. And he wouldn't even have to worry about surviving anymore. But if he mishandled it and made the wrong choice, it could lead to a fate he couldn't even fathom. Even the most capable individuals would have doubts upon hearing rumors about Wang Cheng not being human. Chen Jigua couldn't help but sigh inwardly. Whether ordinary people or those living better, everyone has their own worries. The notion of being carefree simply does not exist in the adult world. Just then, Li Fang's handed him a bowl of soup. Big brother, here, have some rib soup. Chen Jigua, caught in his thoughts, wasn't in the mood to drink soup. He instinctively took a sip, and immediately jumped up from the heat. Just as he was about to scold Li Fang's he looked up and saw Wang Cheng, the very person who had been causing him concern, walking towards him. Chen Jigua's heart skipped a beat, but upon seeing Wang Cheng's furrowed brow, he quickly relaxed and smiled. Striding forward as if the worry he had just felt about Wang Cheng was not even a part of him. Chapter 217. Chen Jigua's resolution. The sky in Fengtian was gradually being enveloped by night, and a corner of the community was particularly quiet, with only the pot of ribs bubbling in boiling water. As Wang Cheng approached, Li Fang's wiped his hands and hurriedly stood up from his spot. Although they were anxious, they still maintained clarity. Wang Cheng, however, was too busy to think much about it. These days, he had been hunting mutated creatures everywhere, with little time to listen to the rumors about himself. Even if he knew some, it was just that. Before Wang Cheng had even entered, he nodded to Chen Jigua. Sorry, I've been so busy these days and couldn't come over in time. Chen Jigua glanced outside and noticed many people looking this way. In this survivor community, who didn't know who Wang Cheng was? His appearance, even at night, was the focus of everyone. Not far away, Ma Tian was also peeking over, eager to curry favor with Wang Cheng. But unfortunately, Wang Cheng didn't pay him any mind, making Ma Tian envious of the privileges Wang Cheng extended to Chen Jigua and the others. Chen Jigua smiled and said, Not at all, you're a busy person now. To be honest, we didn't expect you to be doing so well here at the Fengtian survivor base. These days, we've been riding on your coattails, and everything we do has been quite smooth. Wang Cheng entered the warehouse and first circled around the high-tech motorcycle. The silver motorcycle was well maintained, almost indistinguishable from when Wang Cheng had previously handed it over to Chen Jigua, and it appeared even cleaner, though signs of use were evident. Chen Jigua and the others felt a bit tense, watching Wang Cheng circle the motorcycle as if they were students taking an exam. Li Fengzhan said, "Brother Wang, our boss has been practicing with us these days, and I can ride it pretty well now. Should I demonstrate for you?" Chen Jigua added from the side, "Brother Wang, don't worry, I haven't shown this to anyone. All the practice was done with other vehicles outside the Fengtian survivor base. It's fine. Revealing it in front of others doesn't matter now." Wang Cheng smiled, patting the silver body of the high-tech motorcycle, turning to Chen Jigua and Li Fengzhan, and said, "You both seem a bit nervous." Chen Jigua and Li Fengzhan were momentarily taken aback. "Where's the tension?" "There's nothing at all," said Wang Cheng with a laugh. "How about we give you a demonstration? We have been working hard on driving and operating these days. If you have any requests, my team can assist you." Wang Cheng shook his head. At that moment, he vaguely perceived the anxiety of Chen Jigua and his companion. A thought crossed his mind, and he smiled, saying, "Don't worry. Regardless of what rumors say about me, I won't harm you. If I wanted to eliminate you, you wouldn't even be able to leave this city. Is this rib soup? Bring me a bowl. Life is treating me well." Li Fengzhan and Chen Jigua were actually older than Wang Cheng, especially Chen Jigua, who was nearly 20 years his senior. Yet, in front of Wang Cheng, they appeared cautious, almost afraid to breathe. However, after hearing Wang Cheng's words, they exchanged glances and felt somewhat relieved. Wang Cheng, on the other hand, was quite at ease. He walked over, served himself a bowl of soup, and invited Chen Jigua and Li Fengzhan to sit down. Then he said, "There's no need for a demonstration. I just want you to familiarize yourselves with this motorcycle and practice a bit. I will take it away shortly, and later, I will directly gift you an aircraft that can carry people and launch missiles. How does that sound?" Upon hearing the first half of Wang Cheng's statement, Chen Jigua felt a chill run down his spine, thinking Wang Cheng had seen through their concerns and no longer wanted to use them. But when he heard the latter part, his expression changed. A vehicle that could launch missiles? Chen Jigua was momentarily stunned. In fact, Chen Jigua's earlier guess was not wrong. Wang Cheng handed over the advanced motorcycle to Chen Jigua to test them, but it wasn't as simple as Chen Jigua thought. Chen Jigua believed Wang Cheng wanted to assess their abilities, so he desperately organized a team to practice motorcycle driving skills, hoping to provide a good demonstration to prove their dedication. However, what Wang Cheng needed was not merely a driver for a high-tech motorcycle. He was looking for a pilot for the future second battleship. He required someone discreet, cautious, and sensible. Thus, he didn't need Chen Jigua to demonstrate their driving skills. Observing the condition of the silver motorcycle and the careful demeanor of Chen Jigua and his team over the past few days, Wang Cheng already deemed them suitable. Moreover, due to their previous interactions, Wang Cheng clearly understood that Chen Jigua's current behavior was not a facade. Chen Jigua was genuinely intelligent, possessing a character that was neither arrogant nor overbearing, knowing where to draw the line and understanding reason. Wang Cheng was ready to further recruit and train him. The motorcycle was merely a means for them to practice and ease into handling future aircraft. At that moment, Chen Jigua began to grasp Wang Cheng's intentions. He exchanged a glance with Li Fengzhan and saw disbelief and a hint of shame reflected in each other's eyes. They felt ashamed of their earlier ridiculous speculations about Wang Cheng. Wang Cheng trusts them so much that he doesn't even bother to check their driving skills before offering them a more advanced aircraft capable of launching missiles, which is essentially a fighter jet. Meanwhile, they had just been harboring doubts about Wang Cheng's motives and identity. Chen Jigua felt a slight flush on his face. He was a person who valued traditional principles. For the sake of survival, he might engage in some self-serving actions, but there were certain things that crossed the line of decency that he had never done, even in Haiqing. That's why his subordinates, like Li Fengzhan, remained loyal to him, believing him to be a good person. His previous association with Wang Cheng was simply a matter of making more friends and opening more paths. He never imagined Wang Cheng would be this formidable. Moreover, he didn't expect Wang Cheng to be so generous and trusting towards him. In light of this, his earlier suspicions seemed rather petty. Chen Jigua felt embarrassed and momentarily didn't know how to respond. Seeing Chen Jigua silent, Wang Cheng thought he was still worried. He simply took a sip of soup and said, "Of course, you also have the option to refuse me. Following me has its benefits and drawbacks. You're a smart person. I believe you can figure out the pros and cons without me having to explain them all." Chen Jigua pressed his lips together, staring at Wang Cheng. After a moment of silence, he smiled and said, "In any situation, there are advantages and disadvantages. After so many years of living, I understand this principle. Brother Wang Cheng, I admit I had some concerns today after hearing various rumors outside, but now I realize I was being foolish. After all these years, I let a bunch of nonsensical rumors lead me astray. I know who you are. You've given me face and opportunities. If I turn you down, that would be shameless of me. My brothers and I are willing to follow you. As long as you respect us and use us, we will do whatever you ask. Li Fangzhan nodded in agreement, though he remained silent, knowing it wasn't the right time for him to speak. Wang Cheng glanced at him, smiled, and said, "Very well. Then be prepared to receive the first fighter jet. I hope that next time I leave the city, you'll be ready to take to the skies with me. But let me make one thing clear. Old Chun, the things I'm giving you can be easily taken back. If you follow me well, there will be benefits for you. But if you have any other intentions, you understand the consequences." As he spoke, although Wang Cheng's face bore a smile, his tone carried a sense of imposing authority. Both Li Fangzhan and Chen Jigua felt a slight chill. Chen Jigua replied, "Don't worry, brother Wang Cheng, that's impossible. I, Chen Jigua, have come all the way from Haiqing. Although I've done many things in the dark for survival, I never engage in fickle behavior. From today onward, we are in this together." In the darkness, Chen Jigua's eyes gleamed. This statement is not only a promise he made to the city, but also a reflection of Chen Jigua's true feelings at this moment. His doubts have completely vanished, and he is determined to work well with his people and the city. Chapter 218, Delivering the Falcon Aircraft. The city did not go back on its word. After drinking a bowl of bone soup, it immediately stood up and took away the silver motorcycle. Where did the aircraft come from? Of course, it was an upgrade of the bicycle. This time, the upgrade was from level 4 to level 5, requiring 800 energy points. The city currently has over 10,000 energy points, so 800 is no longer a significant amount for him. The energy points he just obtained from opening a tech treasure chest were enough to cover this upgrade. The city speculated that 800 energy points should be sufficient to transform the bicycle into an aircraft, and if luck was on his side, it might even have a missile launch system, as he boasted to Chen Jigua. The city upgraded within his level 6 battleship, avoiding others. Soon, a system prompt sounded in his ear. Upgrade options for the tech module. This time, it was a choice of 5 out of 3. The first option was to upgrade the cannon to a 50mm caliber, the second was to add an escape device, the third was an electromagnetic pulse device. The fourth was a low-power traction device, and the fifth was a single-tube rocket launcher. The city was somewhat stunned. There was actually no missile launch module. It seemed that the system was not defaulting to the main battleship upgrade. The effects and enhancements were far less significant than those of his own main battleship. In fact, to ordinary people, missiles and rockets might seem similar, but the difference is substantial. Missiles are more expensive due to their long range and precision strike capability, while rockets are generally cheaper with a shorter range, designed for saturation strikes against large area targets. In this context, a single-tube rocket launcher is no joke. The city recalled the embarrassing situation of his low-level battleship that didn't even have onboard weapons. Clearly, the system was conveying that spending such a small amount of energy points for this upgrade was already quite good, and he should be content. Spending 100 to buy a necklace, would one expect to get solid gold? Ultimately, the city chose to upgrade the cannon caliber, the single-tube rocket launcher, and the escape device. The tech bicycle upgrade was completed, and this time, it truly showcased the prototype of a fighter aircraft. Its size was still not too large, with 2 seats inside, and the overall structure was similar to that of a fighter jet, featuring a streamlined appearance, sharp wings, with the cannon positioned right below and the rocket launcher mounted on one side. The entire body remained silver, but compared to the previous tech motorcycle, it was a significant upgrade, like trading a bird gun for a cannon, with a noticeable enhancement. This was a transformation from a motorcycle to a fighter jet. The city cleared his throat and inquired how many energy points were needed to upgrade this tech bicycle to level 6. The system's response was simple and straightforward. Dear host, upgrading the current item to the next level 6 requires 1,800 energy points. Wow, 1,800 energy points to upgrade to level 5. And the city is spending it without hesitation. But that 1,800 is already 1/10 of the total energy points the city currently possesses. The city lord stood up and walked to the porthole of the battleship, looking outside. In the garage, Chen Jigua was sipping rib soup, excitedly chatting with Li Fangzhan. It was clear that the worried expressions on their faces had long since disappeared, replaced with joy and excitement. From time to time, they would glance over at the city lord's battleship, their eyes filled with longing and anticipation. Before leaving, the city lord had told them, "Wait a minute. I'll bring over the aircraft for you. Don't worry, the firepower will definitely be stronger than this one, and it can shoot missiles." Thinking about this made the city lord feel a bit embarrassed. Should I just forget it? Rockets are still projectiles anyway. Besides, Chen Jigua and the others are just ordinary survivors. They might not handle it well at first. This is a good opportunity to win people's hearts, and I am in the initial phase of building a massive interstellar fleet. If I start off with shoddy equipment, won't the future fleet be just a paper shell? The city lord slapped himself to wake up from his small-mindedness. This energy point cannot be saved. Even if I don't upgrade today, I will have to upgrade in the future. The reason for bringing in Chen Jigua and others to build a second battleship is to prepare for forming a large fleet later on. Sooner or later, I will have to help them upgrade their battleships. After the upgrades, the city lord wanted to test whether Chinjigua and the others could bring in energy points by using the battleships he provided to hunt high-energy creatures. If so, he could increase his income and double the efficiency of energy point collection. From this perspective, spending 1,800 energy points is definitely worth it. Taking a deep breath, the city lord turned around and directly upgraded the battleship from level 5 to level 6. 1,800 energy points were deducted. The basic capabilities of the bicycle were too poor, and it was not the city lord's main battleship, although it would also be upgraded to level 6. The energy points required and the form after the upgrade were significantly different from the city lord's main battleship, which is 60 meters long. This is because the current battleship is the city lord's first one, and the upgrade sequence has been adjusted by the system, making each level's improvement substantial. The distribution of high-tech modules is also very balanced, akin to the main weapon in a game. In contrast, the bicycle, which the city lord is now operating manually, is just a conventional item, so the changes after upgrading are naturally not significant. To reach the scale of the city lord's current level 6 battleship, this high-tech bicycle still has a long way to go. Of course, the energy points consumed for its upgrade are not as many. Moreover, because the initial templates for the upgrades are different, the options for high-tech modules that appear during the upgrade also vary slightly. For example, the rocket launcher is an option that the city lord's main battleship has not encountered even after all these upgrades. Given all these factors, it is impossible for the upgraded battleship to be exactly the same as the city lord's flagship. This time, it was still a choice of 3 out of 5, and many new options emerged. For example, upgrading the anti-gravity engine. However, Wang Chung was somewhat surprised that this time there was no missile launcher upgrade. Instead, a new option appeared, upgrading the rocket launcher to a 33 specification, from a single shot to a 9-shot burst. Although there was still no missile launcher, the upgrade on the rocket launcher was definitely sufficient. The 9-shot rocket launcher had an astonishing firepower at close range. Wang Chung immediately chose to upgrade the anti-gravity engine, the electromagnetic pulse generator module, and the rocket launcher. A milky white light flickered, and soon the upgrades were complete. This time, the level 6 black technology bicycle had completely taken on the appearance of a fighter jet, with its silver body exuding a sense of next-generation technology. Its size had also increased, nearly overwhelming Wang Cheng's level 6 main battleship, which now had 4 built-in seats. The position of the rocket launcher was in the belly of the aircraft, capable of retracting into the jet. When extended, the dark 33 9-barrel muzzle exuded an ominous feeling that sent chills down one's spine. The sound of the anti-gravity engine brought even more powerful thrust. Wang Cheng took a deep breath. This time, the machine was truly impressive. It was ready for delivery. Soon after, a situation that attracted the attention of all the survivors in the community occurred. The rear door of Wang Cheng's battleship opened, and the silver fighter jet emerged from the black battleship, its thrusters bursting with light as it directly docked in front of the garage. Many people were startled by the noise and leaned out to take a look, utterly astonished. Li Fengshan and Chen Jigua were also stunned. They had not expected it to happen so quickly, nor did they anticipate that Wang Cheng would truly deliver on his promise, transforming their motorcycle into a genuine fighter jet. Wang Cheng jumped down from above and, touching the cold fuselage, introduced the various functions of the aircraft to them. Its weapons and ammunition could also be 3D printed, with energy points directly deducted from Wang Cheng's account. He briefly explained this to them, but did not go into too much detail, only telling them not to worry about the ammunition issue. Wang Cheng also had a feeling, since the ammunition consumption of this fighter jet was realized through the deduction of his own energy points, the monsters hunted by this aircraft would definitely bring him energy point gains. Overall, this would be a surefire profitable deal. Moreover, among the military supplies previously provided by Yi Anshan to Wang Cheng, there were quite a few rockets that could be used by Chen Jigua and others without consuming energy points for printing in the meantime. Additionally, cooperating with the military could ensure a steady supply of firepower. Of course, due to the limited payload capacity of the aircraft, if prolonged combat was needed, energy points would still have to be used for ammunition replenishment at critical moments. However, no matter how it was calculated, this was a guaranteed profit. Chen Jigua was stunned, and his voice suddenly choked. Is this really for me? Gazing up at the silver aircraft, with its streamlined structure and menacing gun barrels, Chen Jigua felt as if he were dreaming. His heart was filled with both excitement and emotion. He was just an ordinary person who had never imagined he could pilot a fighter jet, especially in this era. Owning such a versatile flying machine was beyond words. The conveniences and status brought by the people from the capital paled in comparison to what this aircraft could offer, because this represented true survival strength. It would directly transform Chen Jigua from an ordinary survivor into a formidable force in this apocalyptic world. During his escape from Haiqing, Chen Jigua had only thought about taking it one step at a time, living day by day. After enduring several major changes on the road to Fengtian, He had only hoped to survive, never expecting to find so many opportunities upon arrival, even acquiring his own flying machine. And all of this was provided by the capital. Chunjigua's gaze shifted to his surroundings, where many were peering in, especially Mation and others, their eyes filled with jealousy. By publicly entrusting this aircraft to him, the leader was signaling to everyone that from now on, Chunjigua was one of them. This was recognition, and it conferred identity. Chunjigua didn't know what to say. He took a step forward and shook the leader's hand tightly, saying, "Brother Wang, don't worry. We will definitely get the hang of it quickly, and we will never misuse it. My people and I are at your service." Although Chunjigua was moved, he understood that there were many around the leader. Why was he chosen? It was because he had people and capability, and he needed to demonstrate that, aligning with what the leader wanted, showcasing his abilities, and offering his support. Good. The leader didn't say much more. At that moment, Li Fengshan mumbled, "Brother Wang, what is the name of this aircraft?" Upon hearing this, the leader was taken aback. This was just an upgraded bicycle. What name did it have? Bicycle Fighter 1. However, Li Fengshan's question served as a reminder for the leader. He now had more than one aircraft. Perhaps it was time to name them. After thinking for a moment, the leader's gaze fell on Chunjigua and said, "It's yours now. You come up with a name." Chunjigua was momentarily stunned, but did not refuse. He stared at the silver aircraft before him and slowly said, "Then let us call it the Eagle Falcon." The Eagle Falcon aircraft. Chapter 219. An incident occurred. Early the next morning, Chunjigua led his team to take off in the Eagle Falcon aircraft. As the silver aircraft's anti-gravity engine started, it buzzed and wobbled into the sky, attracting the attention of many around. The leader had already helped Chunjigua with the necessary registration overnight, allowing the aircraft to operate freely within and outside the survivor base in Fengtian. However, it was clear that Chunjigua and his team needed to improve their flying skills. The Eagle Falcon aircraft flew in a zigzag manner, appearing as if it might crash into nearby buildings at any moment. It wasn't until they gradually increased their altitude that the situation became less precarious and frightening. Wang Cheng instructed them not to be overly cautious in hiding the advanced flying vehicle. Chunjigua saw no need to keep it under wraps anymore. So he took several younger companions, including Li Fengshan, and filled the cockpit of the vehicle, heading out of the city to practice. Wang Cheng also got up early, standing in the community to see Chunjigua and the others off. He was somewhat worried that Chunjigua might struggle with the controls once airborne and crash the vehicle. Fortunately, with the experience of piloting advanced technology vehicles, and Chunjigua being an experienced driver, he managed to avoid any major mishaps, especially under the assistance of the basic intelligence system of the 6th-level flying vehicle. Ordinary people usually need some time to adjust to flying combat aircraft, and Wang Cheng had also adapted gradually. This was the first flying vehicle aside from Wang Cheng's main battleship, and he had high hopes for it. Meanwhile, not far away, Ma Tian was watching this scene from his room, filled with jealousy, muttering to himself, "He got a flying vehicle. A flying vehicle." The people around him were cautious, not daring to provoke their older brother. After Chunjigua and his group set off, Wang Cheng didn't rush to leave. He waited intentionally to test whether he would gain energy points from their actions against mutated creatures. This was a task Wang Cheng had assigned to Chunjigua before they departed, to practice flying skills while taking down at least one mutated creature. Sure enough, Wang Cheng noticed a change in his energy points. It seemed that Chunjigua had eliminated a mutated entity, and Wang Cheng gained 0.7 energy points. Such fractional energy points could not be obtained from personally hunting mutated creatures. They only accumulated through the high-energy beings killed by others. Wang Cheng understood this clearly. Indeed, this was a viable method. This confirmation further solidified Wang Cheng's determination to build a large fleet. A massive fleet would greatly enhance the efficiency of energy point accumulation. However, this was clearly still a challenging goal. Wang Cheng's warships needed improvement, and he needed to focus on enhancing the main battleship's strength first. With the verification complete, Wang Cheng no longer delayed. He set off once again from the survivor base, entering the old city area. Chunjigua had expressed a desire to act together with Wang Cheng that morning, but considering the complex environment and numerous monsters in the old city, Wang Cheng advised him to practice in the wilderness outside instead, which is why they were acting separately. Wang Cheng didn't have time to help Chunjigua adjust to the flying vehicle. His goal was to upgrade to a 7th-level battleship as quickly as possible. The massive warship swept through the air, passing over the survivor base like a giant vessel, diving into the dilapidated old city. The radar comprehensively searched for mutated creatures. The old city was almost devoid of survivor activity, with nearly all encounters being monsters. Wang Cheng advanced, eliminating threats along the way, deliberately creating a commotion to attract the mutated creatures. As time goes by, many mutated variants have undergone 3 transformations, capable of sprinting across the ground like cheetahs, their heads splitting into 4 petals that open up, while rows of teeth grow at the edges of their skulls and flesh, viciously attacking any living creature. Their current form is quite terrifying. Unfortunately, against the ironclad battleship hanging high in the sky, their meager flesh and blood strength is utterly useless, easily slaughtered by the battleship. Inside the battleship, the coordination among the four of them has become increasingly adept. The current battleship does not require many personnel, for it's just right. This is also an attempt by the commander, testing a true multi-person cooperative driving mode. At noon, their battleship hovers steadily above the abandoned district of Fengtian, and the group heads directly to the food synthesis device to prepare their meal. Although the food synthesis device can only create a limited variety of dishes due to its lower level, it can still produce cooked food, conveniently resolving their lunch issue. Su Xinghai made a serving of mapo tofu rice and expressed his amazement, saying, "Even after using this for so many days, I still find it incredible. If we had one of these back in the pre-apocalypse days." Zhang Chao tapped the synthesis device and asked, "Can it make something like rat poison?" This question caught the commander off guard, as he had never considered such an absurd use. The three of them in the dormitory are very familiar with each other, and when they have free time, their conversations wander in all directions. At this moment, Xu Bing spoke up, steering the topic back on track. "I received news from Deputy Yi yesterday that the research center has made breakthrough progress in the secondary development of the B-type drug you provided. The new C-type antifungal drug has significantly improved its effectiveness in suppressing and killing superfungi when taken orally, with efficiency increased to 70%. The current C-type drug can now be put into use. They are currently working on tools to identify early infected and non-infected individuals, and it won't be long before we have the ability to identify and block the penetration of superfungi into the Fengtian survivor base." This news greatly excited everyone. If they can block the invasion of superfungi at the microscopic level, the threat posed by the superfungi to the Fengtian survivor base will further decrease. The commander was also brought back on track by Xu Bing and asked, "How is Pingfeng Mountain recently? Are there any unusual movements? Have the research center and the military expert team obtained any useful information from the superfungi?" The superfungi are rather honest, but they seem to be rebuilding Pingfeng Mountain, possibly constructing something with fungi, which is suspected to be some kind of weapon. Though we cannot confirm this yet, their civilization and technological direction are vastly different from ours. However, it is certain that they are also unwilling to remain in this standoff and are gradually restoring their civilization, with the potential for war to break out at any moment. Xu Bing said, "As for the information, it is currently very limited. They are very wary of us, and their means of communication seems to occur at a micro level, relying on a method similar to synaptic transmission. In other words, they can exchange information right in front of us, formulating questions for expert groups to address us, almost flawlessly. They don't want to tell us anything, and we shouldn't expect to extract any useful content. However, according to Yan Shan, they have been sowing discord." "Sowing discord?" Wang Cheng raised an eyebrow. Xu Bing rarely chuckled. "They want us to expel you, or even engage in conflict with you." Upon hearing this, Wang Cheng let out a laugh. The interaction between humans and the superfungi was indeed filled with ulterior motives. Humans aimed to pry open the superfungi's secrets, while the superfungi sought to fan the flames. Wang Cheng pondered for a moment and asked, "What about the search for people?" At this question, Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao both looked up, their expressions a mix of anticipation and tension. The search Wang Cheng referred to was something he personally discussed with Yan Shan, specifically to help Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao contact their families in other regions. Both of their families were not from the area and were far from Haiqing and Fengtian. Since the outbreak, they had been worried about their families. Although they hadn't shown it before, after years of interaction, Wang Cheng understood their concerns very well, which is why he wanted to reach out to military connections to see if they could help. Currently, only the military had the capability to conduct cross-regional searches. Unfortunately, facing their expectant gazes, Xu Bing could only shake his head. The global communication system is not smooth. Our contact with the nearest Spring City province has been intermittent, and the situation everywhere is quite difficult. It is said that our Fengtian region is one of the few places still managing relatively well globally, while many other areas are struggling to locate people. Just spreading information is." Xu Bing stopped there. Su Xinghai smiled, patted Wang Cheng on the shoulder, and said, "It's all right, we can take our time. We understand that there are too many pressing matters right now. Even if the military assists us, and even if our local military is willing to help, it's uncertain what the situation is in other areas. Moreover, it's been 2 months since the outbreak. We have actually lost hope. It's just a thought now. We want some closure, whether they are alive or dead." Wang Cheng glanced at Su Xinghai, knowing that besides his parents, he also had a sister he was worried about. It was impossible not to be concerned. However, there was nothing that could be done about it, and Wang Cheng could only sigh. Just then, Wang Cheng's nanocommunication device received a call signal. This was a communication device he obtained from a high-tech resource chest, very compact, and could be placed directly in the ear, with voice activation and deactivation. Wang Cheng had tested its communication effectiveness. It was strong and had a long range. He had given one to Yu Jisheng as a means of contact while he was out. Although his warship had strong communication capabilities, it lacked a terminal on Yu Jisheng's side, making it impossible to establish contact with the capital. This small device, however, resolved the issue. Yu Jisheng's call was immediately detected by the capital, and communication was established right away. Yu Jisheng's voice rang in the capital's ears, tinged with panic. It's an emergency. Su Ling and Xia Qin are missing. Someone is targeting us. The capital's expression turned cold. What happened? Chapter 220. No morality in combat inside the survivor base of Fengtian. The capital had returned from the ruins of the old city and immediately sought out Yu Jisheng. On his way back, he had contacted Yi Anshan. And by the time he arrived, Yi Anshan's bodyguard, Lu Ming, was already there. Lu Ming spread out a map and pointed to a small county near the survivor base. Mr. Wang, please don't worry. We have a rough idea of who took Miss Xia and Miss Su. They are a group of desperate criminals who entered the survivor base about half a month ago from Longshan County near Fengtian, which is this location. They have been loitering within the base, and this morning, they acted while Xia Qin and Su Ling were out, capturing both of them. They left a message as they exited the city. It seems they are just a bunch of simple thugs looking to make a profit off you. Is the tree attracting the wind? Su Xinghai frowned. Are they really that crazy? With the firepower we have here, they dare to do this? They are too bold. Lu Ming glanced at the capital and said, it appears that way. They want to use this method to obtain supplies and weapons. The capital looked at Yu Jisheng. Yu Jisheng paused for a moment and then took out a crumpled piece of paper from his pocket, which had a message written on it. We have your people. Bring a truckload of supplies alone, and don't bring your large aircraft. Otherwise, we will start killing. Following that was a long list of supplies they demanded. The capital's face darkened. Su Xinghai gasped, isn't this asking for too much? Our supplies are relatively abundant, but combined, we don't have enough to meet their demands. No need for that. Lao Yu, help me find a vehicle. We don't need to fill it with so many supplies, just enough to make it look convincing. I'll set off right away. The capital glanced at the map. These thugs had no intention of hiding their whereabouts. They swaggered out of the survivor base with Xia Qin and the others, clearly intending to let the capital know where they were and to bring the supplies to them. Were they desperate? But Su Xinghai's point wasn't without merit. Even desperate criminals, with their eyes only on supplies, would take such a huge risk trying to profit from someone as prominent as the capital in Fengtian. After all, the capital was not just an ordinary survivor. He stood with a warship in hand, and the scene of the fierce battle above the sky of the survivor base spread throughout the streets and alleys of the city. The survivors held him in awe, partly because the figures from the royal city and the influential leaders had deep connections, and partly due to the formidable strength of the warlord. Which survivor would dare to oppose someone commanding a 60-meter-long vessel capable of sending the life forms in the clouds fleeing in panic? The warlord turned his gaze to Lu Ming and asked, Does Deputy Commander Yi have anything to say to me? Lu Ming pressed his lips together and replied, Can we speak privately for a moment? From Lu Ming's reaction, the warlord understood that he had guessed correctly. This group of thugs might not be as simple as they seemed. However, the warlord did not move his feet. He glanced at his surroundings. Zhang Chao, Xu Bing, Wang Qi, and Su Xinghai were gathered nearby, all of them his own people. Moreover, the warlord felt a surge of anger. These were his people. He had just intimidated the forces at Pingfeng Mountain, significantly contributing to the safety of the survivor base, and while part of his motivation was self-serving, it was an undeniable fact that the entire city benefited. In such circumstances, anyone who dared to harm his people was essentially seeking death. Thus, in response to Lu Ming's request, he simply shook his head and said, Just speak directly. These are all my people. No matter who it is. I will not tolerate this matter. Lu Ming showed a hint of hesitation, glancing around and unsure whether to speak. The warlord then speculated. Is it the third task force that attacked me last time in the Western District? The warlord was not foolish. After considering the situation, he realized that only the individuals behind that group might attempt to take action against him again. Given the display of strength and special status he had shown, most who coveted his warship would be deterred. In a place like this during the apocalypse, anyone who reached a high position was not a fool and would not take unnecessary risks. Therefore, it could only be that person from before. Now that he had clearly grown stronger, that individual, who could mobilize the local task force, was certainly not naive. Having established enmity, it was impossible for them to remain indifferent while the warlord thrived. If he were in the warlord's position, he would also look for opportunities to eliminate the threat. Only then could he ensure that the warlord would not retaliate against him. I'm not entirely clear on this either, Lu Ming continued helplessly. Deputy Commander, Yi didn't elaborate. He just told me to remind you that while saving people is fine, you should be cautious and not act impulsively. Lu Ming added, I believe that with your current strength, those thugs would not dare to harm your people if their only goal is profit. Otherwise, that would be seeking death. They would have no chance of escaping unscathed. They would no longer be thugs, but fools. The warlord shook his head, and at this point, he almost understood that his guesses were likely the truth. Yi Anshan advised Wang Chung to be cautious, as he could see that this group of thugs was likely not after supplies, but was genuinely targeting Wang Chung. They disguised themselves as desperate individuals seeking money, hoping to lure Wang Chung into a trap by sending him alone without his warship, intending to ambush him in the county seat of Longshan. Understanding the truth, a surge of anger welled up in Wang Chung. He had been preoccupied with too many pressing matters lately and had almost forgotten about that individual, only to find him resurfacing now. This was a death wish. No matter who you are, anyone who dares to harm mine will not escape unscathed. The influential figure behind this scheme was ruthless, wanting to eliminate any threats, and Wang Chung was no different. The super fungus on Pingfeng Mountain could pose a threat to the survivors in the base, so Wang Chung acted swiftly, making a show of force 300 kilometers away to intimidate Pingfeng Mountain, preventing the fungus from making a move. This alone demonstrated that Wang Chung was not one to show mercy. Anyone who dared to challenge him was courting death. That big figure likely recognized this, and, taking advantage of Wang Chung's current preoccupations, aimed to eliminate him. Moreover, he was clever enough not to act just yet. His identity seemed to be quite significant, as Yi Anshan was reluctant to reveal who he was, likely indicating that he was part of the upper echelon of the survivor base. Yi Anshan must have felt troubled as well. Wang Chung's gaze turned cold, and Zhang Chao at his side asked, "Second brother, should we go? I can hide in the supplies with you." Wang Chung glanced at Lu Ming and said, "Go back and tell Vice Chief Yi that I want to act impulsively, and he doesn't need to worry." Lu Ming looked at Wang Chung with some concern. But under Wang Chung's dismissal, he could only leave. Even Xu Bing was left behind, and he exited with Zhang Chao and Su Xinghai. Before leaving, he called Wang Qi aside and said, "Wang Qi, take this business card and help me find someone. I need him to investigate who is behind this. Tell him, if he helps me find out, I will reward him handsomely." The opponent came prepared and intended to target him. Those around him were certainly under surveillance. So Zhang Chao and Su Xinghai could not act, and Wang Qi was sent instead. Yi Anshan might also complicate things, so Wang Chung decided to bypass him. If he wanted to find someone, he had other channels. Wang Qi lowered his head, looking at the name on the card, Qi Sheng. He nodded, "I understand, brother. As soon as you leave, I'll set out." "All right, be careful not to attract attention. We will not tolerate this matter," Wang Chung instructed clearly. He then set off immediately for Longshan County, since they wouldn't let him take a warship. He traveled instead in a large truck that Yu Jisheng had arranged for him, speeding away. Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao wanted to follow, but were stopped at the exit of the survivor base. Longshan County, located 50 kilometers outside the survivor base, would take nearly an hour to reach by an ordinary truck. According to the information provided by Lu Ming, Longshan County was now completely abandoned, with no survivors. Only monsters roaming the area. Wang Chung was very clear that since the opponent was targeting him, this matter was not simple. Longshan County must be filled with traps aimed at him. If he recklessly charged in, it would be like diving headfirst into a net. Without warships, although he was a second-level multi-ability awakened one with decent strength, everyone was aware of his capabilities. The opponent must have been prepared and confident. Choosing a remote place like Longshan County was to avoid drawing attention, leaving Wang Cheng's subordinates and warships with no chance to assist him in time, making it difficult for Yi Anshan to say anything. Such a trap was thoroughly thought out from all angles. Therefore, Wang Chung was not foolish. Although he was angry, he was not to the point of losing his wits. It seemed like he was acting alone, but he had made arrangements. This was not the end of the world. Personal movements were hard to predict, just like how they could quietly take away Xiaqin and Su Ling. Wang Chung saw the 50 kilometers of road ahead as an opportunity. No one could monitor him over that distance, especially since the highway monitoring system was already down. Unless drones were used, it was impossible. Once drones appeared, Wang Chung would notice them immediately, rendering them useless. Therefore, when Wang Chung had traveled 25 kilometers, a silver aircraft swooped down at low altitude. It was none other than Chen Jigua coming to assist him. This was exactly what Wang Chung had requested. He had Li Feng's Han take over the driving and continue towards Longshan County while he boarded the Eagle Falcon aircraft, rapidly ascending and approaching Longshan County, arriving 20 minutes earlier than expected. To avoid alarming the enemy, Wang Chung disembarked from the aircraft outside the county, using his anti-gravity boots to silently make his way in, heading towards the location of the group of thugs that Lu Ming had previously confirmed for him. Sure enough, it was indeed a trap. Those thugs were hiding in a small warehouse with Xiaqin and Su Ling bound, visible to the eye. Surrounding the warehouse were awakened individuals and armed survivor mercenaries, numbering over 100, including even second-level awakened ones, all holding their breath and waiting professionally for Wang Chung to walk into their net. Without warships, even if Wang Chung were a deity, coming alone to face such a luxurious encirclement would mean certain death, with no chance of survival. However, unfortunately for them, they were alert to the surrounding roads and urban areas, while Wang Chung descended from above with his anti-gravity boots. Upon noticing the encirclement, Wang Chung immediately increased his altitude and took a stroll in the air. The noise from the anti-gravity boots was extremely low, making detection in such an environment nearly impossible. Moreover, these people were well prepared. There had indeed been someone keeping an eye on Wang Chung from afar. They had already grasped what vehicle he was driving, how many people were with him, and thus their focus was primarily on the road, never considering that Wang Chung would silently descend from the sky. Wang Chung directly bypassed the outer encirclement and arrived at the top of the warehouse. He rapidly descended through a large hole in the warehouse's dome, holding a laser gun and firing lightning fast. The disguised thugs inside seemed to be professionals as well, reacting quickly, but unfortunately for them, they never expected Wang Chung to descend from above, launching a surprise attack from behind, using energy-based weapons. Many of them hadn't even raised their guns before Wang Chung took them out. In the blink of an eye, the dozen or so thugs in the warehouse were completely eliminated by Wang Chung. Fueled by anger, Wang Chung showed no hesitation in his actions. He shot anyone who appeared in front of him without mercy. Xia Qin and Su Ling, tied up in the corner, widened their eyes in disbelief, not expecting Wang Chung to arrive so quickly and execute such a fierce assault from above. Chapter 221. Xia Qin's thoughts. The group of thugs had been waiting here for a long time, ready to ambush Wang Chung when he fell into their trap, but they never anticipated being caught off guard and wiped out silently. By the time those outside reacted, the warehouse was already a scene of carnage. They hadn't even fired a single shot, let alone warned their companions outside. This was one of the advantages of energy-based weapons. They were relatively quiet. However, their ammunition was limited. After taking out the last of them, Wang Chung glanced at the display on his laser gun, which showed that the ammo had gone from 25 to 0, meaning he was out of energy and couldn't fire another shot. His gaze then shifted to the corner where Xia Qin and Su Ling were tied up. Both of them were tightly bound and had their mouths covered. But it was clear that the thugs hadn't harmed them otherwise. Judging by their clothing, there were no signs of tearing, indicating that the thugs' target was Wang Chung. Everyone knew the level of threat he posed at the survivor base. They wanted to take him down, and even though they had captured 2 exceptional women, they weren't in the mood to harm them. Once Wang Chung was eliminated, they could do whatever they wanted. Unfortunately for them, they didn't succeed. However, Wang Chung felt a sense of guilt towards Xia Qin and Su Ling, as it was because of him that they had to endure such a fright. He quickly stepped forward to untie them. As the tape was pulled away, Su Ling, still shaken, said, "I knew you would come." Xia Qin, however, wore a worried expression and said, "Wang Chung, this is a trap. There are more of them outside, and they're on patrol. They check in every 3 minutes. Once you finish these people, you'll be discovered immediately." Even as an awakened individual, Su Ling was a bit rattled, while Xia Qin remained logical and calm. Yet, her slightly trembling body betrayed her true fear. Her delicate and gentle face was filled with tension, sweat beading on her forehead, and her chest rising and falling slightly. Through her thin clothing, one could catch a glimpse of the color underneath, creating a captivating allure that made it hard to look away. Wang Chung stared at her, momentarily taken aback. Actually, Su Ling is also very beautiful and young, with a vibrant and lively personality. However, compared to Xia Qin, she seems to lack a certain quality. Xia Qin isn't much older than Su Ling, yet she possesses a kind of mature feminine charm, combining softness with a hint of strength that captivates people's hearts. In different situations, she offers a unique allure. Xia Qin, feeling anxious, urged, "What are you looking at? Hurry up, we need to leave quickly, or it will be too late. If something happens, just don't worry about us." Wang Chung regained his composure and shook his head with a smile. "Don't worry. They won't stir up any trouble." As if in response to Wang Cheng's words, a deafening explosion suddenly erupted outside the warehouse, startling both Xia Qin and Su Ling. Through the hole in the warehouse, they could see the layered flames of explosions igniting outside. Just moments after finishing the battle inside the warehouse, Wang Chung quickly contacted Chen Jigua in the aircraft, instructing him to drive the vehicle over swiftly to clear the area. Any targets that appeared within sight should be eliminated, whether human or monster, none would be spared. That roar they heard earlier was from the launch of a multiple rocket launcher. The area surrounding the warehouse was engulfed in flames and explosions, and the buildings where people were hiding were directly demolished. They had no time to realize that the warehouse had fallen, as the aircraft arrived at an unimaginable speed, sweeping across the scene. Chen Jigua was careful with his fire and focused on piloting, knowing this was his first real opportunity to assist Wang Chung, and he wanted to make a good impression. He couldn't afford to be careless in this situation. Since the moment he began, he had been fully engaged in his task. He was grateful to Wang Chung for this chance and was determined not to let any negligence occur. Moreover, actually flying the aircraft and firing in the urban area gave Chen Jigua an exhilarating feeling. something he had never experienced even while playing flight simulation games. Soaring over the city, firing wildly, every place he passed saw ground units fleeing in panic, torn apart by the blasts. This sensation was incredibly thrilling. The aircraft flew overhead, missiles and cannons firing indiscriminately. Under the relentless barrage, dozens of ambushers were transformed into casualties, unable to survive the onslaught. However, these individuals clearly had some skills. Realizing something was wrong at the warehouse, some rushed towards it desperately, trying to complete their mission, hoping to at least eliminate 2 hostages. Yet, once they entered the warehouse, they discovered that Wang Chung had been waiting for them for quite some time. Anyone who entered was met with a direct shot. With the ammunition for the laser gun depleted, Wang Chung pulled out a long and used piece of advanced technology, a shotgun, and positioned himself in a corner by the door. With overwhelming firepower, anyone who entered was immediately blasted. 2 people entering would meet the same fate. It didn't matter whether they were ordinary individuals or second-level awakened beings. In front of this advanced shotgun, they were no match for even a single shot. With a single shot, the target fell dead on the spot. Any survivors were swiftly dealt with as the city released a rocket that ignited them, causing the dying to roll frantically on the ground. 1 kill at a time. Any survivor attempting to investigate the warehouse would meet an inevitable demise. In this ruthless environment, no one could escape. As the battleships grew stronger, the city rarely utilized the black technology shotgun, but now, wielding it felt as natural as it did back at the onset of the apocalypse when they slaughtered mutated creatures in the coastal city. Standing behind the city, Su Ling and Xia Qin watched the scene with a mix of fear and complexity in their expressions. Soon, the area fell silent as the ambushers were cleared out, and Chen Jigua's aircraft landed to retrieve the 3 back to the survivor base. As for Li Fengshan and the others, they would have to endure the arduous journey back in their large truck. Walking behind the city, Xia Qin observed the chaos around her and the figure of the city ahead, her emotions tangled. The person before her seemed worlds apart from the city she remembered. In recent days, she had seen the city's battleships and heard many stories about him. But this was the first time she truly witnessed his decisive action, ruthless and unflinching in killing. This was a side of the city that Xia Qin, who had always been with his parents in the neighborhood, had never seen before. In the survivor base, the city had always appeared before her in a gentle and calm state, different from before, but not drastically so. It wasn't until now that she understood the fear and awe that figures like Ma Tian had for him. Given the scale of today's events and the number of people involved, the city didn't just charge in alone. He eliminated them all with a thunderous approach. Such a version of the city was something Xia Qin had never imagined. The city before her felt both familiar and strange, and she found herself feeling a vague fear. However, the changes in Xia Qin's gaze went unnoticed by the city. He boarded the aircraft and quickly signaled Chen Jigua to return to the survivor base. The city knew that the matters here were settled, but this incident was far from over. The dead were merely pawns, and the true mastermind still needed to be dealt with. Furthermore, just moments ago, Yu Jixing had informed the city through the nano-communication device about the latest developments. Wang Qi had successfully contacted Qi Sheng and obtained the desired information about the big figure, their identity and whereabouts. Therefore, the city hurriedly set off to return from Longshan County to fully understand the situation. Chen Jigua asked, "Shall we go directly?" He was surprised to hear Wang Qing mention the identity and position of that important figure. The person who took action against them this time was actually a top figure from a certain place. And what was most critical was that Wang Cheng was now going to confront them directly, which made him feel quite uneasy. However, Wang Cheng shook his head and turned to look at Xia Qin and Su Ling sitting behind him, saying, "Let's get them back first. Don't worry, it's safe. I assure you, this will be the last time. After today, no one from that place will dare to touch my people." Seeing Wang Cheng like this and hearing him speak with such determination, Xia Qin felt a sense of reassurance for no particular reason. She suddenly realized that the Wang Cheng in front of her had not become a stranger. Rather, he had matured prematurely under the drastic changes of the apocalypse. He needed to protect himself and those around him, so he had to show his fangs. Yet, he was still the person she knew. Chapter 222. You call this a talk? Longshan County was considered a small county with some scale before the apocalypse. After the outbreak, the survivors here were orderly evacuated to a certain place, and the city became a paradise for mutated creatures. They caused quite a commotion, attracting many mutated beings. Wang Cheng glanced over and asked, "Can your people go back?" Chen Jigua's aircraft had limited space, only able to carry 4 people. When he set out today, he had already filled it to capacity, so now, in order to let Wang Cheng and the others board, his subordinates would have to find their own way back. Chen Jigua smiled and said, "Of course, don't worry. I'll clear the way for them, and we'll set off. Our main task is important." Wang Cheng nodded and didn't ask any further questions. After finishing up here, they set off back to the certain place without delay. This incident had startled Xia Qin and Su Ling a bit, but they were also people who had experienced various challenges in the apocalypse. Although the situation was significant, it wasn't as exaggerated as it seemed. They managed to calm down before fully returning to the certain place. Su Ling still looked like a young girl who hadn't grown up. Once the fear subsided, she became a bit excited again. Chattering nonstop about Wang Cheng's sudden appearance and Chen Jigua's cooperation, boasting to Xia Qin about her previous encounter with Wang Cheng and Haiqing. She claimed that she had recognized Wang Cheng's extraordinary potential back then and had protected him, which led to the Wang Cheng of today. Xia Qin wasn't sure if she believed it or was just pretending, but she expressed surprise and said along with Su Ling, "So you're really impressive. I should thank you for protecting Wang Cheng." Su Ling was very pleased, saying, "This time, it's definitely not an ordinary incident. There must be someone behind it. Once we return, we should find Uncle Yi. We need to make sure those behind it pay for their actions." Wang Cheng, who had spoken in a low voice during the first half of his conversation with Chen Jigua, knew that Su Ling was unaware he had already grasped the key information. He couldn't help but smile wryly. His anger had been nearly doused by these two. He didn't even know when their relationship had become so good. No wonder they had been captured together. There's no way around it. Wang Cheng has been extremely busy lately, with matters piling up one after another. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been any opportunity for others to target him. If he had enough time, he would have pursued the last incident relentlessly. However, due to his overwhelming schedule and the importance of various tasks, coupled with Yi Anshan's assurance regarding the previous matter, Wang Cheng temporarily set it aside. Yet the other party keeps causing trouble, which is essentially asking for trouble. On the way back, everything went smoothly, and he quickly returned to the community. He left Su Ling and Xia Qin behind, instructing Chen Jigua to take people to find a doctor for them to get checked out. He then upgraded his mode of transportation, directly boarding his level 6 battleship, starting it up boldly and taking off at high speed, heading deep into the heart of the region. That location is the residence of the influential figure Wang Cheng acquired from Qi Sheng. It was clear that Qi Sheng wanted to do Wang Cheng a favor. Compared to the elusive figure from the region, he evidently had more confidence in Wang Cheng. This influential person was one of the top figures in the area before the apocalypse, affiliated with the local government. After the outbreak, the entire situation changed. Yi Anshan was pushed into the spotlight, and this person became one of the power players behind the scenes. Many in the area were his students or former subordinates, and his influence was immense. The high-level individuals hinted at by Zhang Chongtong were likely part of his circle. However, according to the information provided by Qi Sheng, he was also an insatiable person, reportedly not a good person even before the apocalypse, accepting various forms of corruption and bribery. After the outbreak, due to practical considerations, he had to retreat into the background, but he still aimed to influence the power dynamics within the survivor base, such as supporting his own people to rise up and challenge Yi Anshan, thereby diverting power from Yi Anshan to himself. Many individuals at odds with Yi Anshan were under his influence and had received his directives. As Qi Sheng put it, although this influential person held significant power and could manipulate events in the area, fundamentally, whether before or after the apocalypse, he was a tumor in the region and would gladly see Wang Cheng suppress him completely. Of course, the extent to which Qi Sheng's words were embellished or whether he had other motives remains unknown to Wang Cheng. However, Wang Cheng judged that at least half of this information was accurate. He had dealt with military and governmental personnel before. Individuals like Yi Anshan, although having their own agendas, generally considered the bigger picture for the survivor base and wouldn't engage in petty schemes or mobilize resources for personal gain. In contrast, the two previous actions taken here were driven by personal interests, leveraging their influence in the survivor base. Therefore, Wang Cheng had no intention of being polite. The arrival of the warship directly alerted the ground forces in the central region. At the command center, Yi Anshan received the information immediately, standing up abruptly and moving to the window of his office. He saw the massive warship of Wang Cheng sweep past the edge of the central command building and head straight for the residential area behind. Stopping above a villa deep within, Yi Anshan's expression changed drastically. Damn it, Wang Cheng's target is that important figure. Where did he get this information? What about Xu Bing? Why didn't she stop him? Inside the warship, Xu Bing was already bound tightly and glaring at Wang Cheng, but unfortunately, her mouth was covered, preventing her from speaking, and she could only make muffled sounds. Wang Cheng glanced at her and said with a clasped hand, "I'm sorry, but I'm afraid you try to stop me. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing and won't resort to violence. I just want to go down and have a talk with him, to make him more cooperative." Despite his words, the warship hovered ominously, showing no signs of merely wanting to talk. The main cannon of the warship was ready, and the missile launch system and machine guns were aimed directly at the villa below, which was significantly large, now shrouded in the shadow of Wang Cheng's warship. Wang Cheng, accompanied by Su Xinghai, disembarked from the warship. Su Xinghai whispered, "Just to talk?" He was somewhat worried. Just moments ago, Wang Chung had explained who the important figure they were visiting today was and what kind of status and influence he held at the survivor base. Compared to someone like Yao Zheng, the local leader, this person was merely a minor player. Although Su Xinghai was also angry about today's events, he didn't want to escalate the situation. Wang Chung was currently in a cooperative phase with the military, and the relationship was somewhat delicate. While Wang Chung could intimidate, if he rushed in and killed someone, their relationship with the military would plummet to freezing point, regardless of whether the target deserved it or not. Don't worry. I know the limits. I will use conventional means, Wang Chung reassured him. Outside and inside the villa, there were armed security personnel, but they were taken aback by the display. Moreover, the important figure inside seemed to be aware of Wang Cheng's arrival and did not order the outside personnel to stop him, allowing Wang Chung to enter the main hall of the villa smoothly. There, an elderly man with gray hair and an extraordinary demeanor was already seated in the corner. He appeared to be nearly 70 years old, with deep wrinkles on his face, but his eyes sparkled with a sharpness like that of a fox. As Wang Chung walked in, others instinctively stepped back, but he remained unperturbed, sitting on the sofa and sipping tea. Ah, Wang Chung, I've heard much about you. Seeing you today, you are indeed quite young. However, your aggressive approach here, what do you intend to do? I hope you understand that the survivor base has established a cooperative relationship with you. But this is merely cooperation and does not mean you can act as you wish within the survivor base. Wang Chung had not even spoken yet, but the old man took the initiative to challenge him, pretending to know nothing and questioning him instead. The prominent figure remained calm because he knew that there was no evidence against him in the capital, and it was impossible for anyone to find any incriminating evidence. Although he had used his influence, the only person who could be investigated openly was Yao Zheng. Even if the capital wanted to take action, it would be impossible to catch him off guard. Moreover, he was well aware of the movements in the capital and understood that no real investigation had taken place, making it even less likely for any evidence to be gathered. He had come here without any preparation, acting on impulse, so what was there to fear? With a light chuckle, the prominent figure said, "Young man, you are still too impetuous. They say you might be something other than human, like a super fungus, but I don't believe that. Come, sit down and have a cup of tea, and then hurry back. I heard that your people have been kidnapped by a group of thugs. The sooner you return, the better for uncovering the truth. If you need help, I can assist you. Although I'm older now, I still have some influence in this region." As the warship loomed overhead and the capital confronted him, the prominent figure remained unafraid and extremely arrogant. He understood that the capital had no evidence and knew that they wouldn't dare to act recklessly. His words were deliberately mocking, implying, "You have no evidence. What can you do to me? If you really want to vent your anger, I can help you find someone to take it out on. What can you do to me?" His confidence was not unfounded. He believed that since the capital was collaborating with the military, they wouldn't act against him without any evidence. Given his status and influence at the survivor base, if the capital acted recklessly, their collaboration would be jeopardized, which would be detrimental to them. Thus, he felt free to act boldly, even after 2 failed attempts against the capital, remaining unyielding and instead mocking them. Listening to this, the usually good-tempered Su Xinghai could hardly contain himself. "You are too arrogant." However, before he could finish, he saw the capital wave his hand to interrupt. The capital looked intently at the prominent figure, who, however, did not meet his gaze and was solely focused on his tea, fiddling with the teapot and cups. "You make a valid point," the capital said after a moment of silence, pulling an object from his pocket. "But who said I wanted to uncover the truth? To be honest, I was worried I might be used as a pawn, but since you speak so confidently, it seems that the incidents in the West District and today were indeed your doing. What have I done? I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm solely dedicated to the safety and development of the survivor base. Young brother, you have no evidence, so don't make baseless accusations." You still don't understand my point. I didn't come here to reason with you. Do you know what this is?" The prominent figure smiled casually, but at that moment, the capital also smiled, his tone becoming lighthearted. Noticing the prominent figure's puzzled expression, he gently placed the metallic sphere on the table in front of him and said with a light chuckle, "This is a miniature thermobaric bomb. Rest assured, its power is not great. An explosion here would only be enough to turn your villa and half the street to ashes. So, I advise you to take a good look at it before you speak and think carefully about what you want to say." As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's expression in the room changed. The important figure trembled, and half of the tea in his cup spilled out. Su Xinghai was left speechless. After hearing the important figure's words, he indeed felt they had acted impulsively, rushing over without any evidence. When Wang Qing interrupted him, Su Xinghai thought Wang Chung was going to admit defeat this time, but he did not expect Wang Chung to be holding a trump card. Instead of wasting words, he directly presented a weapon of mass destruction, indicating that he had no intention of reasoning or looking for evidence today. "You are arrogant, but I am even more so." Was this what Wang Qing meant by a discussion? Chapter 223. Old acquaintance. The expression of the important figure changed. The security personnel standing on both sides of the villa also grew tense, with many instinctively reaching for their waists. Seeing this, Su Xinghai shouted angrily, "I want to see who dares to move." Although he was just as shocked, not expecting Wang Cheng's discussion to involve a micro-cloud bomb right here. If it were anyone else holding such an unknown object, they might be suspected of nonsense. However, Wang Cheng had just used nuclear deterrence to intimidate the super fungi of Pingfeng Mountain, making them obedient. In the territory, everyone was willing to believe that Wang Cheng possessed nuclear weapons, and as a representative of an ancient civilization, he had advanced technology surpassing that of contemporary humanity. Given this, when he took out this item, no one questioned it. They all changed color. "What do you mean? Are you threatening me?" Half of the water in the important figure's cup had already spilled out. He was someone who had seen the world, and after a brief shock, he quickly regained his composure, firmly pressing the cup down on the table and glaring at Wang Cheng. Wang Cheng locked eyes with him, sneering, "I have no need to do that. I just want to remind you that this micro-cloud bomb can be detonated remotely, and its small size means that if it were to appear in a building, the resulting explosion would be enough to destroy all evidence and traces. No one would know who did it, and even if someone did, as you said, in special times, without evidence, who can do anything to whom? Of course, my intention in saying this is not to remind you that I might find an opportunity to hide this thing under your sofa or in your wardrobe." The important figure's face turned ashen. His body instinctively leaned back, as if trying to distance himself from the crazy young man in front of him. "What exactly do you want to do?" "Very simple. Admit your mistakes and leave the center of the survivor base in the territory, willingly becoming an ordinary person. And today's matter will be dropped. I want to remind you that tearing apart our relationship does not mean I am also tearing apart the relationship with the military in the territory. No one is a fool. Times have changed, the apocalypse has come, and the old ways and styles are no longer as effective as before." Wang Cheng slowly began to speak. He was playing with the miniature cloud bomb in his hand, and the words he spoke were something he had long prepared. Indeed, his cooperation with the military now allowed him to continuously obtain weapons and ammunition, along with various other support. It wouldn't be beneficial for him to break ties with the local authority. Many might think that having a warship would enable him to break away from the local authority, the survivor base, and human society, leading to a better life than his current situation. However, that would be a completely foolish move in reality. Modern individuals, while enjoying a convenient life, seem to have forgotten where such a life comes from, which is dependent on the modern society and mature industrial chain of humanity. The survivor base could provide support and guarantees that the current city lacked. Supplying weaponry was just a part of it. The greater aspect was reflected in numerous details. For instance, the city didn't have to build its own camp. It could venture out to hunt monsters and return without worrying about overnight patrols against monster invasions. Furthermore, every day, they didn't have to lift a finger, as people arranged by a local leader would deliver vegetables and fruits grown at the survivor base. These seemingly trivial, everyday details allowed the city and its people to develop smoothly without distractions. After a major battle, the city could dive straight into the old district to reap the rewards from monsters. Otherwise, they would be too busy cleaning up the aftermath of the battle. However, as the local leader mentioned, this significant figure still operated under the mindset of the pre-apocalypse. Even if he could do as he pleased today, the military would not truly break ties with him over this matter, because the city needed the survivor base, and vice versa. The practical needs between the two outweighed the existence of a high-ranking individual who caused trouble and distorted facts at the survivor base. If such a figure were to disappear, some might even be secretly pleased. Thus, the city had little to worry about. At most, he would refrain from being too ruthless just to avoid making everyone look bad. This condition was already giving face to the entire survivor base and the local leader. Listening to the city's request, the significant figure's expression changed several times, his anger causing his beard to tremble as he blurted out, "This is impossible. Do you know who I am? I think this might be a solution to the problem." He added. Before the city could respond, a voice suddenly came from outside, and the local leader strode in with the group. His security team quickly took control of the entire area. The local leader glanced at the cloud bomb in the city's hand, and then at the significant figure seated on the sofa. He said, "Old Wang, you're getting on in years. Some things can be confusing, and we understand that. But we can't let you go down the wrong path any further. The situation is dire. The survivor base is like a lonely boat. Playing with power is akin to playing with fire. Even if you gain authority and seize the city's warship, what good will it do? The fall of the survivor base and humanity offers no benefit to you or me." The expression on the face of the influential figure, Mr. Wang, changed. "I have no idea what you're talking about, Xiaoyi. You were someone I personally promoted. It's one thing for you to disregard my words. But are you going to threaten me with baseless accusations like this child? I have already dealt with Yao Zhang, and as Wang Cheng said, times have changed. Now, the overall situation is paramount. I know I was promoted by you, but I also have to take responsibility for the duty on my shoulders. I am the commander of the survivor base in Fengtian, and I must guide Fengtian towards a healthy direction. Anyone who obstructs Fengtian's progress and the survival of the hundreds of thousands in this survivor base is my enemy. We all know what you have done. This is a dignified outcome. At this point, Yi Anshan's voice slightly paused as he leaned closer to Mr. Wang's ear and whispered something. Instantly, Mr. Wang's face turned from furious and pale to ghostly white, as if all his strength had been drained away, leaving him limp. He muttered, "Is this also their intention? I understand now. I was wrong. It's over for me, for everything." Mr. Wang's expression became dazed, as if he had aged 10 years in an instant. He was a greedy man, and losing his current power was more painful than death itself. At nearly 70, death was not as frightening to him as the collapse of his identity and status overnight. All the hard work he had put into his life would amount to nothing. His life was ruined. Yi Anshan slowly straightened up and then looked at Wang Cheng, who had been watching the drama unfold from the beginning, and said, "This matter will be reported internally within the military and government of Fengtian. Mr. Wang's position will be revoked. After this incident, he will no longer have the power to influence Fengtian, and everyone will know what you have done. Are you satisfied with this outcome?" Although Yi Anshan stood on Wang Cheng's side, his expression was somewhat displeased. Wang Cheng had come in boasting, directly carrying a miniature cloud explosion device, which was quite arrogant. As someone from the regular military, Yi Anshan valued rules and principles, and he was not pleased with Wang Cheng's behavior. Wang Cheng, having gained the advantage, smiled and said, "You understand my point. I have no intention of challenging the military of Fengtian. I just want to take this opportunity to let everyone in Fengtian know that my people are untouchable." Very well, now everyone understands the weight of those words. Yi Anshan took a deep breath. "All right, then we have no other business. You all carry on. I will take my leave." Wang Cheng achieved his purpose and made the other party pay a price. That was enough. Moreover, seeing Mr. Wang's current state, once so pretentious and composed, now utterly collapsed, was even more satisfying than killing him. Mr. Wang had not caused any substantial loss to Wang Cheng and the others. But the price he paid was beyond imagination. Not only had the two groups he sent out been completely wiped out, but he himself was now finished. A classic case of losing both the wife and the soldiers. Wang Cheng had nothing more to say. Having taken advantage, why not leave quickly? Wang Cheng was just a bit curious about what Deputy Commander Yi had said to old Wang that made him completely disheartened. Of course, Wang Cheng knew that even if he asked, Yi Anshan wouldn't tell him, so he didn't want to make things awkward. Now that the matter was settled and he had expressed his stance, there was no need for him to linger any longer, and he decided to leave discreetly. After all, one shouldn't be too arrogant in life. Ultimately, Wang Cheng held a deep-seated disdain for old Wang, so he felt no reservations in front of him. However, he respected Yi Anshan. He was a capable and thoughtful commander. Without him, the situation at the Fengtian survivor base would not have been maintained. Therefore, even though it wasn't Wang Cheng's fault that trouble had arisen, he still felt a bit embarrassed about it. So, he quickly took advantage of the situation to leave. He exchanged a glance with Su Xinghai and prepared to head back. Seeing this, Yi Anshan's expression darkened further as he said, "You call this cooperation? I'm almost becoming your cleanup crew here, and you want to leave just like that after causing such a commotion?" Wang Cheng's footstep halted again. Yi Anshan continued, "What I mean is, Su Xinghai can leave, but you must stay. Don't worry, I'm not asking you to clean up the mess. This is an internal matter of Fengtian that you can't handle. Someone wants to see you." Frowning at Yi Anshan's serious demeanor, Wang Cheng wondered who in Fengtian could warrant such a formal message from him. He glanced at Su Xinghai and said, "You go back first. I'll take a look." To Wang Cheng's surprise, the person who specifically wanted to see him was actually an old acquaintance. Chapter 224. The Story of the Lone Wolf. It was an elderly man with a slightly hunched figure and many wrinkles on his face. But his smile was kind and gentle. Sitting there, he had an innate ability to make people feel close to him, which was in stark contrast to the imposing aura of old Wang. Wang Cheng recognized this man. He had encountered him outside the Fengtian General Command building before heading to Pingfeng Mountain, right after he first met Yi Anshan. The old man's words had enlightened Wang Cheng significantly, helping him adjust his mindset and solidify his determination to reach this moment. However, he had been quite distracted at the time and lost track of the old man, eventually forgetting about him amidst the multitude of people at the Fengtian survivor base. He never expected to see this elderly man again at this moment. Moreover, it seemed this old man was at least on the same level as old Wang, a significant figure in the first tier of the Fengtian survivors, at the core of power. Yet, he had no airs about him. As Wang Cheng walked in, the old man stood up and extended his hand for a shake, smiling as he said, "Young man, do you still remember me?" Wang Cheng nodded. "Of course. You can call me Wei Guodong, or just Old Wei or Wei Lao. In our time, we all had similar names. Old Wei or Wei Lao is a bit more distinctive." The room was empty except for the elderly Wei, whose face showed signs of age. But his voice was strong and full of energy, and his gaze was sharp and bright, giving off a spirited presence that should not be underestimated. Wang Cheng had a natural fondness for him, and he noticed that aside from himself and Wei, there was no one else in the room, which clearly indicated that everyone else had been asked to leave. This reflected a level of trust and reassurance towards Wang Cheng. Wang Cheng was someone who reciprocated how he was treated. If treated with courtesy, he would respond in kind, but if faced with hostility, he would respond in kind as well. Given the politeness from Wei, Wang Cheng decided not to maintain his previous demeanor and sat down, saying, "Then I'll call you Wei Lao. I still want to thank you for the last time. It was quite enlightening for me." Wei smiled and shook his head. "If that's the case, then I should thank myself too. I never expected to casually encounter a confused young man by the roadside who turned out to be quite a remarkable person. But rest assured, I am not like that old Wang fellow. I have no ill intentions towards you, nor do I have any designs on the aircraft you possess. My thoughts align with Yi and Shan's. Cooperation is cooperation. We provide what you need, and you provide us what we need. And everything can be accomplished through formal means and channels." Wei's words were quite courteous. As a significant figure, to see a young person at the entrance of the general headquarters and take the time to offer some comforting words illustrated his genuine and open-hearted stance, which was no empty talk, but rather heartfelt words. Wang Cheng nodded, feeling somewhat puzzled. "So, you wanted to see me because..." He had initially thought that a major figure from the region was unhappy with him and wanted to personally reprimand him to keep a lower profile at the survivor base. However, he never expected the situation to be like this. Wei chuckled, looking like a retired official casually walking a bird on a leash, his smile warm and friendly. "Actually, I've wanted to invite you over for a while, but there hasn't been an opportunity. I know you're busy, and I have quite a few matters to attend to as well. Plus, at my age, my health isn't what it used to be, and my energy levels are low. Today, you happen to be in the vicinity and not out of the city, so I thought it would be a good chance to meet you." Wang Cheng glanced around the empty room and, half jokingly and half testingly, asked, "Aren't you afraid I might be a resurrected civilization's life form?" Implying that with no security personnel present, wasn't he concerned about what he might do? Wei shook his head. "I know you are not." This surprised Wang Cheng a bit. Wei had stated it as a fact. Moreover, in the current environment, who didn't he think Wang Cheng was akin to a life form from a resurrected civilization? The key point was that such rumors were being intentionally guided by Wang Cheng himself. And even the higher-ups like Yi and Shan in the region were convinced of Wang Cheng's guided identity. Because of this, Wang Cheng could act without restraint, fully implementing equality in the cooperation between the two parties. As for those rumors, they are insignificant compared to the benefits that this identity brings. Those ordinary survivors, no matter how wildly they spread their tales, cannot affect the situation here in the royal city. Can an elephant collapse because of the whispers of ants? That is impossible. Therefore, the royal city has always adopted a passive attitude towards those external voices. So how did this elder Wei come to the conclusion that he is not part of the revived civilization? If he knows all this, wouldn't he be curious about my battleship? A sharp glint flashed in the royal city's eyes, but he remained silent. Elder Wei continued, "You don't need to be nervous. As I said, everything about you is not important to me. The times have changed. The Federation is crumbling under the shadow of doom. Places like Feng Tian are still relatively intact, maintaining the Federation's system. However, some areas have already changed their course and established their own paths. I understand that you have secrets you do not want to be made public, and I will not inquire about them. If you are truly a being from the revived civilization, I would not seek you out. Meeting you in this setting is impossible, as that would be with an alien race. I am very clear about the attitude one should have towards enemies, and of course, I understand the attitude towards one's own people. You must be wondering why I called you here. I want to tell you a story, but I don't know if you are willing to listen." Elder Wei's voice was calm and steady, carrying a reassuring power. His words indeed conveyed sincerity, and he seemed quite certain that the royal city was not a being from the revived civilization, but a true human. This was also the reason why he took the initiative to meet the royal city. Elder Wei was quite wise, sharp, and magnanimous. His straightforward statement instantly dispelled the doubts in the royal city's mind. The royal city nodded in acknowledgement. Elder Wei smiled and said, "This is a story about a lone wolf. You know, about 100 years ago, during our Federation's modern era, our technology had not yet reached this level. The scale of cities was still small compared to today, and in the fringes of civilization, wild wolves were not uncommon. Back then, some children in villages could even be carried off by wild wolves, which acted in packs, causing a lot of trouble for the people of that time. What I want to talk about is a pack of wolves that once roamed our northeastern region. This pack was quite large, traversing through forests and wastelands. Other large animals, even tigers, could only look on helplessly. The wolves acted collectively, breeding together, cooperating in hunting, and sharing the spoils of their captures. Even the local humans found them difficult to contend with. However, the wolf pack was not a monolith. Among them was a powerful and proud wolf, stronger than its companions, capable of taking on 10 alone. This was a gift from the heavens, granting it immense strength and pride. Yet, this also led to many reflections. For instance, I am so strong, I could survive well on my own. Why should I stay with the pack? The food I hunt must also be shared with them. Once this thought took root, it grew rapidly. Gradually, it came into conflict with the other wild wolves in the pack, and eventually, it left the pack. Reality seems to align with its expectations. The power it possesses alone is enough to take down an adult tiger. In the wilderness, no one is its match. Even hunters with firearms cannot catch up to its speed and will be overpowered and torn apart by it. From this perspective, companions in the pack are merely a burden. Thus, it becomes a lone wolf. Hunting alone, growing stronger, it no longer has to share its food with others, enjoying each meal to the fullest. It is not forced to follow the pack, nor does it have to deal with the troubles caused by weaker wolves. It can do whatever it wants, unbound by any constraints. More importantly, it possesses enough self-discipline to restrain itself. Freedom comes with sufficient self-discipline, and those who can maintain such discipline will achieve everything they desire. Therefore, the life of a lone wolf is far better than it ever imagined. It increasingly feels that acting with the pack is a foolish endeavor. Young one, can you guess what happened to this lone wolf in the end? Although the king had not lived through that era, and few television shows about it depicted such brutal realities, he could probably guess. Tentatively, he asked, did it die? Chapter 225. We walk on the edge of a cliff indeed. The elder smiled and said, times have changed. Humanity has risen. And after coexisting with them for thousands of years, humans have now reached a point where they can completely ignore them. Thus, both the wolf pack and the lone wolf faced the greatest survival crisis. The wolf pack, relying on their numbers, received the news first and moved toward more remote wilderness. There, food and water were scarce, and living conditions were poor. But this was a last resort, compared to being killed by humans. They could only choose to enter deeper into the wild, relying on their collective strength to support one another, survive, and continue to reproduce. The lone wolf, however, remained proud and powerful. It attempted to maneuver around humans, trying to use its advantages to confront them, as it was stronger than any other wild wolf. It had previously defeated hunters armed with firearms, but what it did not know was that its opponents had become far stronger. Its pride was shattered. Without a pack, without offspring, without allies, it paid the price for challenging humanity. Perhaps before this, it had already torn the throat of some unfortunate human, but what did that matter? Humans are social creatures, having built a civilization that is more efficient and intelligent than a wolf pack. Countless humans searched the mountains, even without firearms, using only cold weapons. The lone wolf could not stand a chance against them. An individual human does not need to possess the ability to combat tigers or wild wolves. It is sufficient for the group to have that ability. The lone wolf sustained serious injuries and was forced to retreat deeper into the forest, licking its wounds. It thought that its retreat could end the conflict, as it had given up its territory, but it had not considered that what humans desired was the entire forest. They continued to advance, while the lone wolf could only retreat. But it was already too late. It was severely injured, its wounds had not yet healed, and humans had already surrounded it. It thought that by giving up its territory, it could save its life, as it posed no threat to the powerful humans hunting it. What it didn't know was that the humans had identified it as a threat. Perhaps it couldn't threaten those soldiers sweeping through the area, but those soldiers had never seen such a terrifying lone wolf. Allowing it to live would pose a danger to the surrounding civilians. The powerful soldiers, born from human society, understood their connection to it, and thus, they needed to ensure the safety of the weaker individuals within their pack, for only then could the human pack thrive, relying on each member's role to survive. So, they pursued and continued to hunt down this lone wolf. At that moment, the lone wolf thought of its pack. Perhaps if it could coordinate with its pack, it might break through the encirclement. At the very least, with the help of its companions, even in its injured state, it could be rescued from the human's grasp. But now, covered in wounds, escape seemed impossible. In its final moments, it suddenly understood the significance of the pack. Perhaps not every wolf in the pack shared its strong physique and astonishing speed, but the potential they had when united was something this lone wolf could never achieve alone. The weaker wolves could scout and hide, the female wolves could assist in raising offspring, and the elder wolves could provide hunting wisdom. As for it, it could become the spearhead of the pack, contributing its strength while also enjoying the privileges of belonging to the pack. And all it had to do was share a bit of food. Being part of the pack would mean access to even more food. Unfortunately, they failed. The pack could not overcome the humans. Of course, there were many factors involved, and the pack was just a group of wild animals. But for the pack, in the limited world they could see, they had indeed been defeated by humans. When the powerful lone wolf turned back, it would find that in its world, it was now all alone. And at that moment, where could the lone wolf go? It could only perish before the greater civilization. This is the story I wanted to tell. and it seems a bit long. I hope it hasn't taken too much of your time. Wang Cheng was not foolish. Perhaps at first, he didn't understand the meaning of Old Wei's words, but as he listened further, he realized. He whispered, "Are you talking about humans?" Old Wei smiled and said, "Yes, humans are always selfish. Take old Wang, whom you just dealt with, as an example. He knows that what he is doing is not good, but his influence has grown to a certain extent, and along with it, his desires have expanded. He wants to turn the entire region into his own possession. He, like that lone wolf, cannot see the changes in the outside world or the internal changes within the region. He doesn't understand that his actions, which seem beneficial to him, will ultimately push the entire survivor base into the abyss, and at that moment, he too will be destroyed. Weak individuals often prefer to band together, while strong ones tend to aspire to be lone wolves. This mirrors the tales of heroism found in stories or novels, where every strong character walks alone across the vast wilderness. The presence of any weaker companions only invites scorn from the audience. However, the laws governing this world do not operate in such a manner. Civilization exists because it is a collective force. The strong achieve prominence while the weak form the entirety of civilization. Detached from this reality, a lone wolf may survive, but that is akin to willingly shutting one's ears. If the civilization behind it collapses, it will be left alone in the world. No matter how powerful that lone wolf is, it will ultimately be overwhelmed by the tide of other civilizations. Wang Cheng slightly raised his head to look at him and said softly, "You are talking about me too." He understood the implication behind Wei Lao's words. He was awakening him. Choosing to be a lone wolf appears to be a rational and tempting decision, but it is merely a temporary illusion. Wang Cheng was well aware of this, which is why he chose to rely on the survivor base in the region and collaborate with the military to defend a city. Only those who are foolishly selfish would think that being a lone wolf is the best choice. In reality, that completely ignores the changes in the environment and the support of various details. Without civilization, how can one speak of self? It is like a sourceless stream. Wang Cheng could have chosen to ignore the fate of the city, fleeing with his parents and others like Su Xinghai, finding a place to hide, leveling up by killing ordinary mutated creatures. If civilization were to revive and come for him, he could just escape in panic, claiming he would emerge stronger later. But when that day comes, with global human civilization collapsing and countless ancient revived civilizations rising up to attack, even if Wang Cheng's ship had leveled up to rank 8 or 9, what difference would it make? It would still end in death, just like the lone wolf in Wei Lao's story. Only by first cooperating with the military, relying on the existing social supplies of humanity, ensuring the rear is secure, stabilizing the situation, suppressing other civilizations, and steadily developing a large fleet can one hope to sweep through the challenges ahead. Wei Lao merely smiled and said, "I am talking about you, about me, and about the entire region. Do you understand? The reason we have been able to maintain our current situation, standing against those super fungi and other revived civilizations, is not only because we have triumphed, and because you have made a swift advance that intimidated the super fungi, but also because people in other regions are still fighting. Even those warlords establishing their own territories are striving to resist this terrifying apocalypse. The entire civilization is united against the pressure, which is why we can afford to lower our guard now. Otherwise, even without the super fungi, there is a suspected revived civilization in the nearby province, which is breeding wildly and is impervious to weapons. If it weren't for the full-scale battle in that province, they would have already reached us." Wang Qingdao, a civilization is like a giant ship, whether it is a powerful lone wolf or a weaker, older wolf. All must move forward on this ship. This is not only because the wolves aboard cannot rely solely on their physical strength to navigate the ocean, but also because there are other giant ships on the surface. Once a collision occurs, no matter how strong the lone wolf or solitary vessel may be, they cannot shake the other giant ships. Only giant ships can contend with other giant ships, and the lone wolf must become the sharp blade within its own ship, ensuring the safety of the vessel. In turn, the entire civilization's ship can serve it. The existence of the giant ship also provides the powerful lone wolf a space to rest and heal its wounds. No one can leave the ship. Even if one becomes a lone wolf, it can only be a lone wolf within its own civilization's ship. Detached from the ship, it will surely be crushed by the giant ships of other civilizations in the vast ocean. Old Wei, upon hearing this, was momentarily taken aback, then smiled and said, "It seems I don't need to say much more. You understand my meaning well. I knew you were this kind of person. In this matter, you are clearer than I thought. So, this is what I wanted to discuss with you today. Don't become a lone wolf. You need to stay clear-headed and disciplined. Today's matter might upset others, but in my view, it is a good thing. You did the right thing and used your strength to inform the entire region of your capabilities and what you can achieve. I support you. I can assure you that if needed, the entire region can serve you. You can become that sharp blade, whether you are military or an ordinary survivor. Whether you lean towards the Federation or want to establish your own power, we can help you at any cost. even if you want to deploy nuclear weapons. It is not impossible, as long as it is truly necessary. If you were to detonate a nuclear device at Pingfeng Mountain, what could it change? Many may harbor hostility or suspicion towards you. That is because they do not yet understand the current situation. The era of the Federation has already passed. Or rather, the term Federation has lost its meaning. What remains for all of us is a shared identity as human civilization. Outside of human civilization, everyone else is an enemy. We, as humanity, form a giant ship together. Whoever can steer this ship forward can become the helmsman of civilization. Trust me, in this region, I can give you such a guarantee. Whatever you want, whatever you wish to do, you can do freely, as long as it does not threaten the safety of the region. Of course, I believe you would not do such a thing because you understand what I am saying. We are walking on the edge of a cliff, and thus, at this moment, there are no nations. We are merely a whole. Chapter 226. The Change of the World. Old Wei's voice was not loud, yet it had a deafening effect. Wang Qing looked at him, feeling an unprecedented clarity in his thoughts. Old Wei's perspective was also astonishing. In his eyes, it seemed that the concept of the Federation no longer existed. There was only humanity and civilization, for which he was willing to tilt the entire region's resources in favor of Wang Qing, as long as Wang Qing needed it. There was no questioning or blame. In the words of the elder Wei, that prominent figure was nothing at all. Of course, in the face of the broader perspective he demonstrated, it truly was insignificant. He looked at the entire state of civilization. At this moment, Earth resembled a vast sea of civilizations, with human civilization being merely a massive ship on that ocean, alongside other vessels of different civilizations. Therefore, under such circumstances, identifying and eliminating the malignant elements became crucial, and any federations or governments became less important. What mattered was overcoming alien races to ensure that humanity's ship could continue sailing, which required the strength of every individual. In civilization, one could be a lone wolf, but no one could completely detach from civilization and venture into the ocean alone. When the waves surge and the ship sinks, who can truly save themselves? At this moment, Wang Qing found himself at a loss for words. Simply staring at him and saying, "I'm still curious. How can you be certain that I am not a being from a revived civilization? Not an alien from another ship?" In response to Wang Qing's other questions, Wei had answered directly and openly, but this time, he only revealed a mysterious smile. Slowly leaning back against the soft sofa behind him, his eyes narrowing slightly. "This is the wisdom of the elderly, I senti it?" Wang Qing's expression fell. However, Wei had already shifted to another topic. "In that case, there are some things I think you should know. Please, go ahead." Wei's demeanor turned serious again, and Wang Qing immediately adopted a more solemn expression. With just a few words, his respect for the elder grew significantly. Holding a high position and possessing such vision and clarity of thought was enough to earn Wang Qing's deep respect. This elder was the true helmsman of the survivor base in Fengtian. Wang Qing was not foolish. Although Wei did not explicitly state it, it was clear from his words that he held a very high position within the Fengtian survivor base, wielding significant influence. Even Yi and Shan had to listen to him. That previously arrogant figure was nothing more than a minor player in his presence. Looking back, it was highly likely that the words Yi and Shan had whispered to that elder were also meant to convey Wei's intentions, which was why that prominent figure had suddenly lost all spirit and ceased to struggle. When the most powerful figure in Fengtian wanted him to step down, no matter how capable he was, what waves could he possibly create? And that most powerful figure in Fengtian was the elder Wei sitting before him. At that moment, Wang Qing realized he had been slow to respond in this regard, only now fully grasping the situation. The person before him was undoubtedly the absolute leader behind the scenes of the Fengtian survivor base. However, upon reaching this realization, Wang Qing felt a sense of relief. Having such a person at the helm of the survivor base was a good thing, far better than someone like Wang Lao. This was a matter that would determine the fate of the survivor base. Wang Qing was lost in thought here, while on the other side, Old Wei had already finished his drink and continued speaking. The current global situation is not optimistic. As I just mentioned, we are indeed on the edge of a cliff. Some matters that Yi and Shan hasn't shared with you are because he is also unaware. The critical intelligence coming from outside must first reach me. A portion will be intercepted by me, and only what Yi and Shan needs to know will be passed on to him. So, the situation is quite dire. In our region, we are barely holding on, but battles are breaking out everywhere. Currently, the number of recorded resurgent civilizations globally has surpassed 20. In the North American region, there is a civilization known as the Phantom Species, which has nearly swept across the area, causing the North American military to retreat continuously, with over 10 million humans falling to the Phantom Species. In our region, the Tagu civilization is expanding rapidly. They have taken Hong City and seem to possess a technology reminiscent of science fiction, using it to build an invincible fleet. Nearby, in the province of Chun City, the presence of alien civilizations has just been mentioned. In Kyoto, For major resurgent civilizations are attacking, and the situation is very grim, to the point where precarious is not an exaggeration. However, the Kyoto side has been warning us not to provide support until they stabilize their position, to avoid the entire Northeast and North China regions falling into chaos. At this stage, in our North China and Northeast regions, if any province's military is wiped out first, it will undoubtedly shake the entire regional situation, prompting a coordinated movement from the resurgent civilizations. Although many of these civilizations possess technology that surpasses ours, most of them have only recently revived, and their foundational cultural achievements have not yet been restored. Therefore, at this stage, the possibility of them joining forces is very high, with the priority being to dismantle the immense efforts humanity has put into maintaining our presence on Earth for countless years. This is why I say we are on the edge of a cliff. Wang Cheng felt a chill run down his spine. It turned out that the information previously disclosed by Yi Anshan was not complete, and even he was unaware of these details, which had been suppressed by Old Wei. Since you don't inform Deputy Yi, why are you telling me? Wang Cheng asked. I don't know what your secret is, but I've reviewed your data and noticed that your aircraft has been evolving, becoming increasingly powerful. Old Wei replied. I'm sharing this with you to remind you that if you wish to continue growing, you need to do so quickly. The current situation is precarious. If my judgment is correct, our Federation's former support system cannot last much longer. Once the overall situation collapses, the consequences will be dire. We in Fengtian will no longer be able to maintain the current state, and you will not have the opportunity to strengthen over time. The tide of other civilizations will be upon us, overwhelming us with force. Although I have yet to obtain precise data on the Phantom species and Taga civilization, the signs indicate that their strength far exceeds ours. If they revive in the Fengtian province area, we would be doomed. This is not an alarmist statement. With your current aircraft capabilities and the strength of our entire Fengtian, we would likely be unable to withstand them. So, Wang Cheng, you must accelerate your efforts. If you have any needs, feel free to bring them to me. Given the current situation, if there is any significant advancement for our civilization in the short term, it might only be you. Wang Cheng felt a surge of anxiety. The information previously disclosed by Yi Anshan was merely unsettling and tense, but now it was downright chilling. Several regional federal forces had been defeated, and the resurgent civilizations were growing wildly atop the remains of humanity. If they lagged even slightly, once those civilizations fully expanded and swept through, could Wang Cheng stand against them? The answer was likely negative. As Old Wei mentioned, the Tagu civilization contributing to Hongcheng had no rivals and was assembling a massive fleet. The term fleet used by Old Wei was self-explanatory. It was certainly not an ordinary space air force. Wang Cheng lowered his gaze. I understand the urgency of the situation, and I will act quickly. If there is anything I need, it's weaponry. I require a large quantity of it. You can provide me with a list, and I will have Yi Anshan make arrangements for you. Old Wei readily agreed, and what he discussed with Wang Cheng was not mere surface talk. The acknowledgement he provided was something he could deliver and genuinely wanted to fulfill. Wang Cheng felt somewhat moved, but also recognized that Old Wei's willingness to assist stemmed from Wang Cheng's displayed strength and decisiveness. With 6th-level battleships and nuclear weapons in hand, and the continually evolving power of the warships, these were advantages Wang Cheng had demonstrated. If it weren't for these, why would Old Wei not have shown up when Wang Cheng had 5th-level battleships? It was because, at that time, Wang Cheng's capabilities were far from sufficient in Old Wei's eyes. Strength was the root cause of the current resource allocation. Although Wang Cheng felt touched, he was clear about this point. Then, he asked the question he was most eager to know. Old Wei, do you understand what is happening? The global mutations and the resurgence of civilizations. What is the reason? Why has our world undergone such drastic changes overnight? This was the answer both Wang Cheng and Yi Anshan sought, as they believed it pertained to the future direction of global affairs. Unfortunately, Old Wei only shook his head and said, to be honest, I'm not sure. The information I have comes from an expert team in the capital. They believe the resurgence of ancient civilizations is due to a large meteorite impacting the moon, affecting the lunar and Earth-moon relationship, causing tidal force changes, compounded by environmental changes on Earth. However, you should be able to see the problem with this explanation. Things are probably not that simple. A meteorite impacted the moon? Wang Cheng's mind raced, and he immediately thought of the moon fragments that had fallen in Haiqing. Those moon fragments were far from ordinary. Chapter 227. Do you want to become an awakened one? The information Old Wei provided was new to Wang Cheng. The changes to the moon were actually caused by a meteorite impact. According to Old Wei's subsequent description, Wang Cheng learned that about a year before the apocalypse broke out, a massive meteorite struck the far side of the moon, causing a series of significant impacts. This aligns with the information Yi Anshan shared with Wang Cheng earlier. But Yi Anshan did not mention anything about the meteorite, and it's unclear whether he knows and is unwilling to speak or if he is unaware. Old Wei sighed and said, I don't know if this impact is related to the current doomsday. Over the past year, there have indeed been many changes on Earth, such as changes in the distance between the Earth and the Moon affecting tidal forces. In the past year, there have been frequent earthquakes in many places. Some people even speculate that it's a test of space-based weapons by certain entities, but in fact, that's not the case. It's the result of gravitational changes between the Earth and the Moon. However, to avoid causing panic, we have not made this information public. Furthermore, the awakened have actually appeared before the global mutations. That girl from the Sioux family is one of the earliest awakened. We have been researching them, but unfortunately, there are still no conclusions. Now, with the disaster erupting and the global doomsday, I doubt anyone has the energy to pay attention to the changes in the sky. Was the impact from a year ago completed? Then why are there still meteorites falling? Are those meteorites fragments from the impact or from the meteorites that struck the moon? Wang Chung immediately asked, feeling a chill from the information Old Wei provided, which raised many doubts. He previously thought that the irregular energy crystals came from the moon, but given the current situation, they might not necessarily be from the moon. They are more likely from unknown meteorites. He recalled that there was indeed related news a year ago about a meteorite passing close to Earth, which even trended online, stating that the probability of hitting Earth was 1 in several tens of thousands, but if it did hit, it could lead to mass extinction. However, such news had always been exaggerated, and Wang Chung didn't pay much attention to it, quickly forgetting as time passed. Now that he thought about it, that meteorite might not have hit Earth, but instead struck the moon. Young man, have you forgotten how far the distance is between the Earth and the moon? That meteorite shattered upon impact, damaging the moon's structure and resulting in a large number of meteorites. Under the influence of the Earth-Moon gravity, they need to float in space for a long time before they can enter Earth's atmosphere, and the vast majority of meteorites will burn up in the atmosphere. It's normal for them to appear a year later, and in the future, many more fragments may fall. Wang Chung furrowed his brows deeply and suddenly asked, "Is there any in Fengtian now?" Old Wei paused for a moment and shook his head. "As far as I know, there's only that piece from Haiqing." Shu Bing brought back a small sample from Haiqing, but it's almost useless. It's not much different from the lunar soil we obtained. He had no need to deceive Wang Chung. Wang Chung was silent for a moment and chose to fully disclose the matter of the irregular energy crystals. The more Old Wei listened, the tighter his brows knitted, showing obvious surprise, and he said, "Are you saying that the meteorite carries some kind of energy substance?" "I'm not clear on that. In that case, I'll have someone pay attention to it. Can you let us research the piece you have?" Hearing this, Wang Chung showed an awkward but polite smile. Old Wei cleared his throat, and they both understood. That is an important energy source for the warship, so it cannot be studied by the military. This matter must be resolved by the local military on their own. Wei, being generous, said, "If we find more, we will share it with you." Wang Chung just smiled and said nothing. He did not stay here for long. Although Wei was old, looking vigorous with a clear mind, he could tire easily and had his own matters to attend to. Wang Chung also had to leave, feeling increasingly anxious after gaining more information from Wei. He knew the situation was urgent, with global circumstances changing every second. The nearby super fungi and cloud organisms posed threats, while the dangers from other revived civilizations were even more terrifying. Slowing down could mean not knowing how one might perish. Therefore, Wang Chung decided to leave directly. At that moment, it was not yet dusk. After some thought, he took his team out on the warship to hunt down mutated creatures and collect energy points. When he returned in the evening, he saw that Yianshan had arranged for a shipment of military supplies. 2 large trucks delivered missiles, rockets, autocannon shells, and all sorts of conventional weapons. Ma Tian, Xiao Li, and others were shaken, not daring to leave their building, while other ordinary survivors shrank back even more. This was not just due to the intimidation of the weapons, it was also because of what Wang Chung had done, which had spread throughout the area. Wang Chung had completely disrupted the local power structure. Not only had the elder Wang fallen, but Yao Zheng was also completely finished, swept away entirely. Wei took this opportunity to join forces with Yianshan to reorganize the internal structure of the survivor base. As a result, Wang Cheng's deterrent reputation spread far and wide. Rumors about him circulated, not merely presenting him as a person, but as a figure of fear. Whether among ordinary survivors or high-ranking military officials, everyone avoided him. No one dared to harbor ill intentions toward him or his people. Wang Chung had already made it clear through his actions. Anyone who dared to oppose me will face complete ruin. Of course, he did not forget those who had helped him this time. He sent Wang Qi on another trip to deliver 2 precious nanomechanical medications to Qi Sheng as a token of gratitude. Some people around Qi Sheng expressed dissatisfaction, saying, "Boss, you helped him find his way this time, and he only sends 2 pills to brush us off. What do you understand? I had our technical department look at these. The ingredients are not even medicine," someone sent by Wang Chung explained. These 2 capsules contain dense nanobots. With these, almost all diseases, cancers, external injuries, and even super fungus infections can be treated. This is a life-saving panacea. The technology inside is something our current experts cannot produce. It is said that Wang Qing only gave one to the research center for study, but sent me two. Do you understand what that means? Qi Shen carefully played with the capsule in his palm and said softly, moreover, I heard that this city has received support from an influential figure, who is quite a tough character. Gaining his goodwill is the greatest reward for us. His subordinates immediately showed expressions of surprise. He also supports him? Isn't it rumored outside that this city is not of our kind? He. Qi Sheng merely smiled lightly, carefully storing the capsule without answering the question. He only knew that he had placed his bets on this city, and that was the right choice. In the stillness of the night, the leader called Su Xinghai to his warship, handing him a special serum obtained from a level 6 mutated creature, preparing to let Su try to break through to a secondary awakener using this. Su Xinghai was not polite and took it away to try. Subsequently, the leader called Wang Qi over and retrieved a backpack from the corner, filled with special serums. In recent days, he had been hunting mutated creatures in the city, encountering many unique ones and extracting a lot of special serums. An exaggerated amount was all here. He placed the backpack in front of Wang Qi and said, "Didn't I mention wanting to help you become an awakener? There were too many matters before, and I couldn't manage. Now, come on, choose whatever you like from these. And take one for Yuan Rue as well." As he spoke, the leader stepped forward to introduce the abilities corresponding to the special serums in the backpack. Among them were the basic fire and water serums, along with many peculiar abilities. However, since Wang Qi was not an awakener, he could only use level 1 serums. The leader picked out the level 1s and handed them to Wang Qi, suggesting, "I recommend you choose the more conventional fire or water abilities, as these level 2 serums are easier to obtain. When the time comes, I can help you break through to become a secondary awakener. If you like others, you can choose them too, but higher level serums are harder to acquire. To elevate your awakener level, you'll likely have to rely on your own efforts. Of course, if you fancy several abilities, you can take multiple serums." Wang Qi was both excited and touched. The last time the leader spoke to him, he remembered it well. But since the leader had not reached out, he felt embarrassed to ask and could only wait anxiously. In this apocalypse, Wang Qi had struggled through hardships and greatly admired the strength and status of awakeners. He was grateful that the leader had brought him along and would not trouble him for his own concerns. He thought the leader had forgotten and was ready to let it go. Unexpectedly, the leader not only remembered but also gave him a bag full of awakener serums to choose from. Who else in the city could enjoy such treatment? Brother, I. Wang Qi couldn't help but look up, his eyes slightly red. He knew that as an ordinary university student and survivor, his current situation was entirely thanks to the leader. When Wang Qing saw him like this, he immediately waved his hand and said, "You're being too sentimental. Don't go there. We've walked this path together, and I've long regarded you as one of my own. This is something you've earned. Just choose quickly. I have other matters to attend to." Wang Qi then nodded vigorously and said, "Brother, I'll listen to you. I'll choose the basic fire ability and get a water serum for Yuan Rue. One is enough for us. We want to be greedy." Wang Qing smiled at this. Their thoughts were quite similar to those of Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao. Just one was sufficient. Only Wang Qing himself was recklessly using serums. He selected 2 serums extracted from relatively powerful mutated creatures, one for fire and one for water control, and handed them to Wang Qi. Wang Qi's hands trembled with excitement. This was becoming an awakened one. Wang Qing's strength and the comfortable life they were currently living felt great to Wang Qi and the others. But that was Wang Qing's strength. Becoming an awakened one was a personal achievement, and the excitement and joy were beyond words, especially for ordinary people like them, who clearly understood the gap between awakened ones and regular individuals. Experts had said that ordinary people like them might never awaken, but now, Wang Qing was turning that impossibility into possibility, transforming their despair into hope. Such excitement was indeed hard to express. Wang Qi said, "Yuan Rue will definitely be very happy. Brother, if there is anything in the future, just let us know." Wang Qing felt a bit helpless and laughed. "Let us know? What kind of talk is that? I've already told you, we came all the way from Haicheng together. Back at Haicheng University, you were the one guiding me. We're friends. We'll live through this tough time together. I know you want to be on my battleship. That is inevitable. There will be a place for you on my flagship." Wang Qing had a good impression of Wang Qi. They had shared hardships together, and he didn't want this guy to be overly grateful and feel the need to repay him. He preferred a friendship like those he had with Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao. In such a desolate end time, true companions became particularly important and rare. Wang Qi nodded repeatedly, unsure if he absorbed what was said, and carefully stored the special serum. After listening to Wang Qing explain the precautions for injecting the serum, he quickly left. Wang Qing sat in the captain's chair, fell silent for a moment, and began searching. He planned to give himself a few more injections, and the rest would be distributed among Chun Jigua and his people. These special serums needed to be converted into real combat power to be useful. But after a moment of thought, he called Xiaqin down and asked her on the battleship, "Do you want to become an awakened one?" Chapter 228. A tranquil night. This was Xiaqin's first time on Wang Qing's battleship. From the moment she boarded the massive ship and made her way to the bridge, her mouth was agape, her eyes wide as she looked around. Wang Qing's battleship docked here every day, but due to Wang Qing's authority, only those he permitted could open the hatch and board. It was clear that Xiaqin was not someone with authority. She had stood under this massive structure at dawn or in the dark of night, gazing up with curiosity about what lay within. Now, at this moment, she found herself inside it. Moving through the space felt like being in a scene from a science fiction movie. The interior was unlike any conventional large aerial vehicle, with portholes and corridors resembling those in sci-fi warships. What surprised Xiaqin even more was Wang Qing's question. "Do you want me to make you an awakened one?" Wang Qing nodded. "Do you wish for that?" The idea of making Xiaqin an awakened one was something Wang Qing had just thought of. He had not considered it before, but today's events had prompted him to think. Perhaps Xiaqin needed this special awakening ability even more than Wang Qi and himself. It was not just about protecting herself. Alongside Wang Cheng's parents, she could also protect Wang Qing's parents. Xiaqin looked at Wang Qing in surprise. During her time at the Feng Tian survivor base, she had never heard of anyone being able to turn ordinary people into awakened ones. Even the research center couldn't achieve this. According to publicly available information from the center, becoming an awakened one relied solely on personal awakening. If one did not awaken within the first month after the apocalypse, the chances of awakening later were almost zero. In other words, those who were not awakened now would never become awakened in their lifetime. Yet, Wang Qing claimed he had the ability to break this impossibility, and judging by his demeanor, it seemed to him like a trivial matter. If someone else had said this to Xiaqin, she would likely have been skeptical and worried that they might be trying to deceive her. However, over the past few days, she had witnessed Wang Qing accomplish too many impossibilities. Especially today, she never expected him to create such a significant stir, even dragging a prominent figure from Feng Tian down with him. She did not know exactly who that person was, but she had heard from Yu Jixing and others that he was an incredible individual, someone even Yi Anshan treated with respect. Yet, this remarkable person had taken action against them today and had collapsed like a piece of paper. All of this had been achieved by the person before her. After a moment of silence, Xiaqin slowly shook her head. She looked into Wang Qing's eyes and said, "Thank you, Wang Qing. I understand your intentions. This is a rare opportunity, but I feel that I am not the person who needs to become an awakened one the most. You can give this opportunity to someone who needs it more and can use it better. Even if I had awakening abilities, I might not be able to utilize them effectively. I am not someone who seeks out conflict. As an ordinary person, I feel both regret and honor. I think, for now, I do not need to become an awakened one." Wang Qing was taken aback by Xiaqin's response. At the Feng Tian survivor base, the identity of an awakened one, not to mention its benefits, came with real abilities. Who in this world wouldn't want to have some superpower? Even Wang Qing could not resist the temptation of being an awakened one, yet Xiaqin had declined it in that moment. Moreover, her attitude was very resolute as she smiled and said, "You don't need to persuade me. Thank you, really. I'm not too scared today. After all, I've been through the early days of the apocalypse, and I've seen all kinds of situations. If you want to comfort me, could you take me to see your spacecraft?" Xiaqin slightly lifted her head, exposing her slender neck, curiously looking up at the dome of the bridge of the 6th-level battleship. The details of the battleship were richer than before, with numerous decorations resembling stars on the dome, and looking up from below felt like gazing at a galaxy, creating a stunningly beautiful impression. Wang Qing was momentarily taken aback before regaining his composure. He chose to respect Xiaqin's decision, stood up with a smile, and took her on a tour of the entire spacecraft. Xiaqin didn't understand military matters and wasn't fond of war and bloodshed, but she was drawn to the futuristic beauty of the battleship, curiously looking around and asking questions, which Wang Qing patiently answered one by one. For some reason, being with her made Wang Qing feel a sense of comforting strength that he hadn't experienced since the apocalypse. It was a feeling of tranquility. As they strolled through the battleship, all the miscellaneous worries seemed to vanish in an instant. It was peaceful and beautiful. Wang Qing even noticed more details about the battleship that he usually overlooked. Then, he took Xiaqin to the food synthesis device, where he spent 2 energy points to personally synthesize a simple little cake for her. It was just a triangular slice, without any fruit. Very simple, a cake base topped with white cream. The low-level food synthesis device could create most conventional foods and even simple dishes like mapo tofu. But the variety and form were limited. For instance, the synthesized mapo tofu only contained chili and lacked green onions and minced meat, and the cake was the same. This would not have been considered anything before the apocalypse, but after, it was already quite rare. Seeing Wang Chung hold up the piece of cake, Xiaqin's eyes seemed to sparkle. This is incredible. This is the food synthesis device. I thought I could only see this in movies. When Zhang Chao told me about it, I didn't believe it was for me. Of course, Wang Chung smiled. However, he thought to himself, Zhang Chao is such a big mouth. Why is he telling everyone about the stuff on the battleship? Xiaqin carefully took the cake and said with a smile, having this piece of cake makes me happier than those girls in the survivor base who claim to be the daughters of tycoons and live a high-class life. I've heard that wanting to eat cake is quite a luxury for them. Wang Chung paused at her words. He had heard that although resources were scarce in the survivor base, some big figures, especially families like Qi Sheng's, could still enjoy a high-class lifestyle. Watching Xiaqin hold the cake and say such things made Wang Chung feel an inexplicable discomfort in his heart, but he remained silent. Xiaqin then looked at Wang Chung and asked, shall we eat together? Wang Chung was taken aback for a moment, shook his head, and said he didn't particularly like sweet foods. You can share it with Su Ling. You both got quite a scare today, and sweets can help relieve stress. We're not naive little girls anymore. Let's have it together. I think it's actually you who is truly scared today. Wang Chung paused. Me? Xiaqin revealed a sly smile. Of course, am I wrong? What you did today has instilled fear in many people in the region. But what I see is your fear. You're worried not just about them targeting me and Su Ling, but also about them going after Wang Qi, your parents. That's why you want to retaliate and make them pay the price immediately, in a way that the whole region can see. So, saying it's you who is scared isn't wrong, is it? Wang Chung couldn't help but laugh. If that's the case, it makes sense. All right, let us go. I'll take you to the captain's quarters for some cake. As he spoke, he took another look at Xiaqin. What she said indeed reflected his thoughts. He understood that battleships, systems, and awakened abilities are not omnipotent. A powerless child could kill a strong adult if the method is appropriate. Therefore, when he saw someone daring to target him, his reaction was so intense and explosive. He needed to intimidate the region, just like intimidating a super fungus, making people afraid to act. Humans are inherently greedy beings, and even knowing something is impossible, they might still choose to take a risk. Wang Chung acted so arrogantly to cut off those adventurous thoughts, and he succeeded. However, he didn't expect Xiaqin to see through it so clearly. Xiaqin stopped talking about that, and when Wang Chung offered her the captain's seat, she unceremoniously sat down, chatting with him about things from their days as neighbors. Inside the battleship, her laughter filled the air. Wang Chung stood to the side, watching her speak animatedly while eating cake, her delicate and fair arms waving around, with a hint of cream on the corners of her light pink lips, resembling a child. In the normally stern and cold battleship, a long-lost tranquility and peace spread. The meaning of war is for tranquility, and the existence of battleships is also for this purpose. Wang Chung slowly exhaled and said, if you want cake in the future, just come find me, there will be plenty. Xiaqin turned her head, looking at Wang Chung with surprise. Really? From Wang Cheng's angle, the faint blue veins in her neck were clearly visible, leading down from that fair skin to a simple V-neck t-shirt. Then below, in the battleship, Wang Chung averted his gaze and softly replied, of course. Chapter 229, Upgrade. Level 7 Battleship. It was a bright night. The moon overhead was particularly bright, and the survivor base was enveloped in darkness due to energy-saving measures, all under the gentle moonlight. Wang Chung stepped down from the battleship, silently glanced at the sky, and walked towards a nearby warehouse, carrying the remaining special serum in his hand. The special serum is a rare item that can only be obtained by chance, but now, as the ability to hunt mutated creatures in the capital increases, it has become less precious in comparison. He found Chen Jigua in the warehouse, carefully wiping down the Falcon aircraft, and handed him the items, saying, you can distribute these to your brothers. Upon learning what the capital had given him, Chen Jigua showed a clear look of surprise. Like Wang Qi and Xiaqin, he was astonished that the capital had such means. However, he didn't ask any further questions, just nodded and said, don't worry, after my men use it, I will make sure they keep quiet. Chen Jigua was aware that his relationship with the capital was not as close as that of Wang Qi and Su Xinghai, so he was more cautious in his interactions and understood the importance of discretion. Wang Chung nodded and glanced at the gleaming Falcon aircraft, saying, you should get some rest too. You've worked hard today. Li Feng's Han and the others are back, right? They are back. After the last battle in the West District, most of the monsters gathered outside the city have been wiped out. It's very safe outside now, and they didn't encounter any trouble. It's fine. You sleep first. I'll head over soon. I just want to clean this up a bit more. It's a good item, he chuckled. Chen Jigua had also secured a house in this area for himself and his men, but he remained in the warehouse partly because he was concerned about Wang Chung coming to find him, and partly because he truly loved this Falcon aircraft and couldn't bear to leave it alone, which is why he was still cleaning it so late. Wang Chung merely smiled at this. He thought to himself that he had never taken such care of his own warship. That night was a calm one for Wang Chung. But in the central area of the city, a major reshuffle took place. Under the leadership of Old Wei, the forces of Old Wang were uprooted, and a large number of personnel were dismissed, resulting in a healthy turnover within the survivor base. From this perspective, Wang Cheng's actions actually provided an opportunity for Old Wei and Yi Anshan to act. Of course, Wang Cheng was not interested in this. The next day, he set off again without pause, heading to the old city to hunt mutated creatures and gather energy points. The massive warship patrolled the city like a terrifying beast, a nightmare for the mutated creatures. Faced with the slowly approaching warship, they fled in panic. But how could the ground creatures escape the aerial warship? They were all wiped out by the subsequent powerful firepower, turning into energy points for Wang Cheng. With the ammunition supplied by the military, the consumption of Wang Cheng's energy points dropped sharply, and the efficiency of accumulating energy points increased rapidly. The 30,000 energy points needed for a level 7 warship were within reach. Wang Cheng couldn't help but feel emotional. Back when he was in the coastal city, he had to be very careful when hunting mutated creatures, picking them off one by one, fearing that if they gathered, he would be overwhelmed. But now, he could chase down groups of monsters, and he was even worried that the noise he made wouldn't be enough to attract a sufficient number of creatures. It is worth mentioning that Chen Jigua and his team have also started to engage in the battlefield of the old city of Fengtian, acting alongside Wang Cheng to hunt down mutated creatures. This has provided Wang Cheng with a second channel for energy point input, although limited by firepower. The efficiency of Chen Jigua's hawk-like aircraft in harvesting energy points is not as high as their own. It is still much better than just relying on one battleship. Even if the energy points harvested from the mutated creatures need to be counted as part of their own, it is still a profitable deal. The total amount of energy points obtained by Wang Cheng daily has increased by about 20%, which means he will be able to accumulate 30,000 energy points more quickly to upgrade to a level 7 battleship. This is the advantage of having a fleet. Wang Cheng couldn't help but fantasize about the future. If he could build an aerospace fleet to harvest energy points across the globe, would he be able to upgrade while lying at home? He might not even need to take action himself. Indeed, even in the apocalypse, humans still have dreams and impulses to take it easy. Wang Cheng chuckled at his own thoughts. In the corner, Xu Bing wore a cold expression. She was clearly dissatisfied with what happened yesterday. Although the situation with Wang Cheng charging into the central area was ultimately resolved, Xu Bing was undoubtedly the most dissatisfied person in the entire incident, even more so than Yi Anshan. After all, Yi Anshan managed to eliminate a tumor within the survivor base in Fengtian, resolving a hidden danger. For Xu Bing, her experience was being tied up by Wang Cheng and then lectured by Yi Anshan after being released, which left her quite unhappy. Yet, her task was still to follow Wang Cheng, and she had to remain here. Therefore, her already cold face was darkened to the point that it seemed like it could drip water, but oddly enough, this demeanor gave her a captivating beauty. She looked good even when she was upset. Su Xinghai couldn't help but whisper, "Xu Bing seems very unhappy. Wang Cheng, shouldn't we?" Wang Cheng paused for a moment and slowly shook his head. It's fine. She may be angry, but she knows the importance of the situation and won't take any revenge on us. She will just obediently operate the battleship. Hearing Wang Cheng's words, Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao, who had leaned in, were both dumbfounded. Su Xinghai said, "Is that what I meant?" Zhang Chao exclaimed in shock, "Second brother, even capitalists aren't as ruthless as you." Wang Cheng could only give a dry laugh. He meant to operate the battleship and harvest energy points. He wasn't truly oblivious to Su Xinghai's intent, but he genuinely didn't know how to persuade Xu Bing. Her personality seemed simple, yet because of this, Wang Cheng had no means to win her over, so he could only turn a blind eye and act as if he hadn't seen anything. Next, Wang Cheng established a very regular routine of grinding for levels. The old city of Fengtian seemed to have become Wang Cheng's training ground. Every morning, after waking up, he would head out with Su Xinghai and Zhang Chao without delay, spending the entire day outside hunting mutated creatures, with energy points skyrocketing, and not returning until after midnight. They operated at night, frantically gathering energy points. Finally, on the 4th day and the 8th day after the Battle of Pingfeng Mountain, the total number of energy points in the royal city finally reached 30,000. This speed is already quite fast. In the old city of the region, the main inhabitants are now ordinary mutated creatures, and due to the previous loss of many survivors in the city, they are not gathering. It is easy for the royal city to quickly gain 1 or 2,000 energy points, but accumulating 30,000 energy points at this speed is already quite impressive. Once the 30,000 energy points were reached, the royal city decisively returned from the old city to the survivor base. After leaving Shubing, Shuhai, and others behind, he immediately took off again, piloting a level 6 battleship towards the wilderness outside the survivor base. The level 6 battleship, with its upgrade process making a significant noise, required the royal city to follow the same strategy as before, preparing to find a quiet place in the wilderness to upgrade. Naturally, there was no need for Shuhai and others to participate in this upgrading process. The level 6 battleship was incredibly fast and eager to upgrade. The Royal City accelerated to the 6 Mach limit. The ship's thrusters emitted flames, resembling a black lightning bolt, piercing through the air with a sonic boom, disappearing into the sky. In less than half a minute, the Royal City had already appeared in a stretch of wilderness about 50 to 60 kilometers outside the survivor base. The ground here was occupied by some mutated beetles, each as large as a car, frantically consuming the soil. The Royal City descended from the sky, directly annihilating them all with a single shot, sending the entire group of mutated beetles flying. Then, he prepared to upgrade here. The Royal City observed that in a radius of several kilometers, there wasn't even a single tree. Only this group of mutated beetles eating the soil, suggesting they had consumed all the nearby vegetation. With such an open area and few monsters around, this was the best spot to upgrade to a level 7 battleship. Taking a deep breath, the Royal City jumped down from the battleship, just as before, touching the edge of the ship with his arm, and softly called out to the system in his heart. System, consumed 30,000 energy points to upgrade the current battleship to level 7. Chapter 230, Brand New Main Cannon. Dear host, do you confirm the upgrade of the currently bound battleship to level 7? The upgrade is expected to consume 30,000 energy points. Do you confirm? Upgrade. Confirmed. The Royal City spoke without hesitation. On the cold, desolate land, the Royal City felt a surge of excitement in his heart. He still remembered how it felt to upgrade to a level 1 battleship, and now he was about to upgrade to a level 7 battleship. It was a significant leap forward, a far cry from the past. The events of yesterday felt like a dream. Scanning the battleship, the upgrade is about to begin. Estimated time required for the upgrade, 160 minutes. The 30,000 energy points required for the upgrade have been deducted. The system notifications rang out consecutively. A milky white light gradually emerged, enveloping the battleship in a dreamlike atmosphere. The Royal City was somewhat surprised. This upgrade required more time, close to 3 hours, whereas the last one hadn't taken even 2 hours. He felt a sense of anticipation. 3 hours, 30,000 energy points. How much could the battleship be enhanced? This would be a long wait, but it would be worth it. Wang Chung stood silently at the side of the battleship, waiting. This time, even the prompt for selecting the advanced technology modules appeared later than usual. This was not the first time Wang Chung had upgraded. He had observed that the prompt for selecting advanced technology modules typically appears around 1/3 or halfway through the upgrade process. This time, the upgrade would take 160 minutes, so the system notification was understandably delayed. In the sky, strange and unidentified birds occasionally screeched as they flew by, seemingly oblivious to the humans and the glowing battleship below. Of course, it was also possible that they were frightened away by the massive, luminous battleship on the ground, causing them to flee quickly. Under global evolution, Earth's ecological environment had undergone tremendous changes. The existence of mutated creatures had brought about apocalyptic disasters, but they had also restructured the entire Earth's ecosystem. This meant that mutated organisms could not be eradicated. Even if humanity were to regain control of Earth in the future and rebuild cities atop the ruins, the ecological environment would be hard to restore to its original state. These new mutated animals and plants would constitute a completely new biosphere on Earth. The planet was still the same Earth, yet it was no longer the same Earth. Of course, all of this was premised on the condition that humanity was not wiped out by other resurgent civilizations. The sky was clear and blue, with not a cloud in sight. It was a sunny afternoon, and thus the halo from Wang Cheng's upgrading battleship, while relatively bright, was not overly dazzling. Time passed slowly as he waited, minute by minute, until eventually, the long-awaited system notification finally arrived. Dear host, your battleship is about to upgrade to level 7, granting you 6 options for advanced technology module enhancements. 1. A second set of Area 6 energy shield modules. 2. Upgrade the main cannon to an embedded 650mm electromagnetic catapult main cannon. 3. Low-power electromagnetic traction device. 4. A second low-power turbine laser cannon. 5. A second 50mm caliber machine gun. 6. Upgrade the current anti-gravity engine to level 3. 7. Upgrade the missile launch silo to 44 specifications. 8. Optical stealth system. 9. Interference projectile launch module. 10. In-ship cruising intelligent drone platform 1. 11. Conventional energy refining device. This time, it was 11 options to choose 6. With a level 7 battleship, Wang Chung had even more advanced technology modules to choose from. Just hearing about the first selectable advanced technology module made Wang Cheng's heart race. That was the second shield generator. Choosing this module meant that Wang Chung would have 2 shield generation systems, effectively giving him 2 shields on the battlefield. While it would not yet achieve full coverage with the shield system, its defensive capability would far exceed that of the current single shield. Wang Cheng chose this module without hesitation. Next up was the main cannon, a 650mm caliber. That was a true artillery piece, coupled with electromagnetic rails. Its firing speed and payload power would elevate its performance to a whole new level. The increase in caliber meant a multiplication of its firepower. Now, if the fortress fires a shot down at Pingfeng Mountain, it wouldn't simply be about taking out a peak. Rather, half of Pingfeng Mountain would be reduced to ruins by this shot. Even if it can achieve the same level of radiation annihilation as nuclear weapons, its power is sufficient to deliver a devastating blow to super fungi. This is a space-level electromagnetic railgun mounted on a battleship. The new main gun's firepower is the source of all fear. With a caliber of 600mm, just the sight of this gun is enough to intimidate a wide area. Naturally, this main gun needs an upgrade. The fortress is even eager to try using this main gun to strike others. However, the upgrade isn't complete yet, so it must proceed cautiously. It selected 2 advanced technology modules, leaving 4 more options. This time, the fortress didn't hesitate and directly opted for the optical stealth system. The battleship already has an electronic counter-stealth system, but lacks an optical stealth module, making this choice perfect. Who isn't a bit sneaky these days? Hiding away and taking a shot. For the 4th selection, the fortress once again chose to upgrade the anti-gravity engine to level 3. The anti-gravity engine is crucial. As the battleship grows larger, its upgrade becomes inevitable. Otherwise, it would be challenging to support the increasingly massive ship during upgrades. Next, the fortress chose to upgrade the missile launch system. The missile launch module of the level 6 battleship is of size 22, which means 4 missiles per group. Now it directly changes to 44, allowing it to launch 16 missiles in one go, resulting in a true rain of missiles. The firepower has multiplied several times. Of course, the fortress had some concerns. Printing 1 missile requires 20 energy points. For 16 missiles, that totals 320, not counting the other 2 conventional missile launchers. A full barrage would require 320 energy points. Fortunately, it can procure missiles from the military. Otherwise, relying solely on its own energy points to print missiles would be quite a burden. Indeed, the more the battleship is upgraded, the stronger it becomes. But the consumption also increases significantly, far beyond what it was in its previous lower-tier state. For the final choice, the fortress hesitated between the drone launch platform and the refining device. It accessed the system to learn about these 2 options. The former is an independent onboard drone unit, consisting of a landing pad and the drone itself. The landing pad provides functions such as docking, maintenance, and recharging, while the drone features a counter-stealth system. Can carry 1 missile, reaches speeds of up to 3 Mach, and can perform long-range reconnaissance or targeted strikes. It operates in both manual control and intelligent autopilot modes. The latter can enhance the fossil energy efficiency of the battleship. For instance, energy that originally supports the fortress for a day can now last a day and a half with this device, improving efficiency by about 50%. If these 2 items had appeared earlier, the capital would have undoubtedly chosen the drone platform with its irregular energy crystals. However, now one of his energy crystals has turned to dust, and the second one is being consumed rapidly in use, unable to sustain for much longer. This means that he will soon have to revert to the conventional energy source provided by the warship. Of course, the conventional energy reactor of the warship has been upgraded gradually alongside the warship itself, and it is no longer in the same state as it was years ago. Nevertheless, its endurance is still inferior to that of the irregular energy crystals. Thus, he finds himself in a dilemma. As for the interference projectiles and the second machine gun along with the turbo laser cannon, he also desires them, but compared to these 2 options, they are naturally the ones to be discarded, especially the low-power turbo laser cannon, which has impressive lethality and penetration. He definitely wants it as it could directly enhance the firepower of the warship, but the consumption is too high, and he really cannot afford it. In the 7th level warship, the nuclear reactor he hoped for has yet to appear. Even the conventional fission nuclear reactor has not shown up, which forces him to think and reconsider. The drone platform is powerful and can directly enhance the warship's capabilities, while the refining device could significantly boost the warship's endurance and overall performance. Faced with the choice, which one should he select? Which device does the 7th level warship need more? He thinks cautiously and ultimately makes a decision. In the end, he chooses the drone platform. Though the refining device is useful, he is currently backed by the survivor base in a certain region, providing him with continuous support and a docking port. He does not need to engage in prolonged battles for the time being, and he still has half of his irregular energy crystal left, which can sustain him for a while. In the short term, he should not face a situation of long-term combat without supplies, making the refining device's potential contribution minimal. In contrast, the integrated and fully functional drone platform could play a role in multiple scenarios, directly enhancing the warship's survival and combat capabilities on the battlefield, thus becoming the final choice for his advanced technology upgrade module. At this stage, what he needs most is a tangible enhancement in combat power. He is unsure if his choice is correct, but he has a feeling that perhaps the next upgrade will bring a more advanced power device, such as a nuclear reactor. Through multiple upgrades, he has also gained some experience. The content of the black technology modules available for warship upgrades is essential for the warship's needs and represents the direction of necessary improvements aimed at making the warship more comprehensive. Therefore, as the warship's level continues to rise, its energy consumption has already surpassed that of any air and space platform. Although the energy issue is not yet urgent, upgrading to 8th or 9th level will undoubtedly pose a challenge. Thus, he follows this line of thought. When upgrading to an 8th level warship, perhaps the nuclear energy module will finally become available. This ensures the overall capability of the warship. If a nuclear energy module appears now, choosing a refining device would be a wasted opportunity. Moreover, even in less favorable circumstances, the capital can utilize energy points to supply power. Times have changed, and the capital's ability to acquire energy points has significantly improved, so it won't be as wasteful as before. From various perspectives, this drone platform seems to be more useful than the refining device. Given these reasons, the capital calmly analyzed, made a judgment, and completed the final choice. After confirming with the system, it quickly fell silent again. The upgrade continued in a dead silence. It was a long process, but the capital was somewhat looking forward to it, anticipating its brand new main cannon and a more powerful firepower system. 30,000 energy points were required for this upgrade to a level 7 warship, consuming 3 times the energy points compared to the previous upgrade to a level 6 warship. The extent of change in the warship's upgrade was also related to the number of invested energy points, and the capital believed there would be significant changes. The dawn was quietly moving, and finally, the milky white upgrade glow on the warship gradually dimmed. A system prompt echoed in the capital's ears. Dear host, congratulations. Your warship has successfully upgraded to level 7. Please confirm. Energy points required for upgrading to the next level warship, 60,000 points. The capital slowly stepped back. The impressive sight of the warship was now before his eyes. His first impression of the level 7 warship was that it was big, really big, even bigger. Previously, the length of the level 6 warship had reached 60 meters, but now, the warship had surpassed 100 meters in length. The external structure did not seem to have changed much. It still had a streamlined, starship-like appearance without wings, flowing and robust from front to back. The black coating reflected a cold light, revealing a sense of sternness and chill of steel and technology. Its height and width had also proportionally expanded, making the capital feel small standing beneath it. Looking at this level 7 warship, before stepping inside, the first thought that crossed the capital's mind was, this time, my small community won't be able to accommodate it. The level 6 warship had already taken up a lot of space in the community, nearly filling it entirely, and now, with a level 7 warship, the capital's mouth twitched. Would it really have to dock in the central area? At this rate, future warships would inevitably be larger than the survival base in another region. With such thoughts, the capital walked toward the warship. Even though 3 times the energy points were consumed, the warship's volume did not double. A small portion of the consumed energy points was used to increase the warship's size, while more were spent on enhancing the armor level of the warship. The material of the outer armor plates had once again upgraded, with its impact resistance soaring. At the same time, the internal space also became more abundant, with more functions added. Wang Qing disembarked from the rear of the battleship, where the rear compartment had doubled in size, allowing for more supplies to be stored. Even the previously unaccommodated flying vehicles could now dock on the upgraded battleship. He then noticed changes in the medical bay. There were even independent resting compartments within the battleship, providing crew members a place to rest. Additionally, with the increase in the battleship's size, various functional modules were no longer cramped together, but were seamlessly integrated, invisible from the rear to the front of the ship, having been hidden in the external corners. The bridge had expanded again, with its position shifting from the front to about 1/3 of the way down the ship. At this moment, located on the second tier of the battleship's streamlined structure, the frontal armor was thickened, with the main cannon and shield generator positioned behind the primary armor. This arrangement ensured the safety of the shield generator and made the bridge's location more secure. Furthermore, the interior of the bridge became more spacious, with a main passage extending from the bridge connecting various areas of the battleship. On the right side of the battleship, Wang Chung found a dedicated module for drones. It was a small space of 7 square meters, housing a high-tech drone with a wingspan of around 6 meters, resting on a circular landing pad. With the automatic mechanical arm for maintenance in a retracted state, the platform was at eye level, and standing in front of it gave Wang Chung the impression of looking at a miniature toy landing pad. However, this was no toy. This drone system had multiple functions. The drone could not only conduct reconnaissance, but also carry small missiles for targeted strikes, operating in both manual and autonomous modes. Manual operation could be done directly from the bridge, Wang Cheng decided to test the performance of the drone first, rushing to the bridge and operating the control interface at the captain's seat to launch the drone. The side deck of the battleship that was docked on the ground elevated, and the 6-meter-wide drone took off vertically at high speed, accelerating to 3 Mach. Under Wang Cheng's control, it flew a wide circle around the battleship, providing a thrilling experience. The manual operation interface of the drone was quite similar to air combat games Wang Cheng had played before, making it simple and user-friendly, truly a foolproof operating system. At that moment, Wang Cheng received a communication from the survivor base in a nearby region. It was a message from Yanshan, indicating an urgent situation. A rogue cloud-based life form had been detected moving at high speed at the edge of the survivor base's territory. This life form did not support Wang Cheng's ceasefire plan, so both the survivor base and the super fungi had been monitoring its movements over the past few days. Once detected, whether it was a single entity or a group, Wang Cheng would strike ruthlessly, fulfilling his promise. Within the realm, anyone who dares to attack me shall meet their end. This also serves as a deterrent against super fungi and strange creatures. Only by continuously demonstrating military might and showcasing absolute execution and sufficient ferocity can the royal city ensure that they remain obedient, not daring to act recklessly until they possess absolute strength and certainty. The news of this pursuit is generally edited and conveyed to the royal city directly by a certain individual to ensure accuracy and safety. Upon learning this, the royal city narrowed its eyes slightly, a glint of cold light flashing in its gaze. This is precisely a good opportunity. It can test the firepower of the Level 7 battleship. Immediately, the royal city activated the Level 7 battleship, which slowly ascended into the sky. The optical cloaking module was initiated. The surface of the battleship began to ripple like water. It was not the deck of the battleship that was fluctuating, but rather the optical shadow device on its outer armor that had activated, distorting light and causing the surface of the battleship to appear turbulent like a lake. Soon, the turbulence ceased, and the massive dark battleship, spanning hundreds of meters, abruptly vanished from the sky. Following that, a sonic boom erupted from the spot as the battleship shot out at high speed. However, the royal city discovered that the current optical cloaking capability of the battleship could only be maintained at low speeds. Once the battleship exceeded the speed of sound, the optical cloaking would show flaws. The faster it went, the larger the flaws became. The maximum speed of the Level 7 battleship could reach up to 8 Mach. At this speed, the optical cloaking module would fail. This was because, in dynamic conditions, the environment around the battleship was changing rapidly, making it difficult for the current optical cloaking system to achieve complete synchronization. The faster the speed, the quicker the changes, resulting in astronomical calculations. Therefore, as the battleship approached the target location indicated by the individual, it quickly decelerated in the high altitude, dropping below the speed of sound. Still fast, the battleship silently vanished into the sky like a whale submerging into the ocean, slowly approaching the target. Under the optical cloaking system, the battleship completely blended into the surrounding environment, disappearing from sight in the blink of an eye. At that moment, the battleship was a silent and invisible hunter. Chapter 232. The Royal City's small target. It was a cloud life form hiding at the edge of the province. Its presence was quite arrogant, unwilling to maintain a brief peace with humans, but it had suffered heavy losses in the last great battle and could hardly muster any combat power in the short term. Forced to break into smaller groups and rely on its life advantages to hide, this cloud life form disguised itself as an ordinary cloud, mingling with layers of clouds. Floating aimlessly, wherever the clouds drifted, it followed, quickly changing to another layer whenever the clouds dispersed. This was due to the ferocity of the aircraft from the technologically revived civilization allied with humans. In recent days, it had lost count of how many of its companions had been slaughtered. Under the tactic of breaking into smaller units, their individual strength is no match for each other. And once they encounter, it ends in slaughter. Although the cloud life forms appear resilient, in reality, they are filled with anxiety, desperately hiding themselves to evade attacks from humans and the royal city. For them, the most detestable are actually two former allies. The bizarre creatures and the super fungi have quickly turned against them, now even assisting humans in locating them, making their situation even more difficult. However, being weaker than their opponents, the cloud life forms have no choice but to endure for now, hoping to survive and grow stronger before eliminating all these hostile civilizations. One particular cloud life form is quite cunning. It has been hiding here for a long time, being extremely cautious and vigilant, never relaxing its guard. Every day, it observes its surroundings almost without closing its eyes, fearing that the Deathbringer might suddenly appear from somewhere in that dark battleship and take it away with a single shot. Today is no different. It moves with the normal cloud formations, carefully concealing its body, blending almost seamlessly with the surrounding clouds. Yet, for some unknown reason, it feels particularly uneasy, prompting it to be even more alert and to activate its sensory organs, which are similar to a radar system in humans, helping it detect and identify enemy signals. But it finds nothing. The unease seems to be a mere product of overthinking. It reassures itself that it might just be too frightened lately, too tense. It has heard that more companions have retreated to other regions, hoping to develop there and come back stronger. Perhaps it should also move to another area soon. As it contemplates this, suddenly it hears a piercing, chilling shriek. It is instantly alarmed. That is an attack. It quickly scans the surroundings to determine the source of the strike, but it is already too late. The entire cloud layer it occupies begins to evaporate. In the intense heat, the whole cloud is ignited. In the terrifying explosion, its body is completely torn apart, dying in an instant. In the sky, the once pristine white clouds are replaced by a terrifying fire cloud. This is a conventional weapon. However, this conventional weapon employs an electromagnetic launch mechanism, firing from a 600mm cannon. At close range, this cloud creature and the surrounding clouds are utterly shattered, dead beyond recovery. Meanwhile, at the exact location the cloud creature had meticulously scanned, the space ripples like water, and a massive dark battleship emerges from within. This is the Royal City's Level 7 battleship. The Level 7 battleship can evidently achieve dual invisibility from both radar and the naked eye. Not only can the cloud life forms not detect it, but even if the Royal City were to bring the battleship to the survivor base, the local military would not be able to detect it either. Silent and undetected, it approaches for the kill. The cloud creature, unaware of who or what attacked it until its demise, vanished along with the cloud cover it was disguised in. In Wangqing, a system notification echoed in his ears. Energy points acquired, 300. This was a standard cloud creature. However, Wangqing glanced at his energy points. Just moments ago, the main cannon fired a high explosive shell, consuming 120 energy points. While the power of the main cannon had increased exponentially, so had its ammunition consumption. Although the military could provide other munitions like missiles and machine guns, the special shells used by Wangqing's main cannon could not be produced by the military's production lines. Moreover, Wangqing had just upgraded, doubling the caliber of the main cannon, and there were no ready-made shells available. He could only use energy points to print them. A larger caliber and greater firepower also meant larger consumption. Immediately after, Wangqing's warship slowly turned. He did not return to the capital, but headed further away. North of the capital was Chun City Province. According to Elder Wei, Chun City Province seemed to be under the harassment and attacks of certain monsters. Wangqing advanced at a speed of around 4 times the speed of sound, which was incredibly fast. The distance between the two provinces was nothing to him. He followed the rivers that traversed Chun City and quickly spotted the alien civilization Elder Wei mentioned. These beings were markedly different from mutated creatures. They were pitch black, elongated, moving on all fours like beasts, and had sharp tails. Wangqing discovered a group of these alien beings advancing like wild animals, surrounding what appeared to be local troops from Chun City, numbering in the hundreds or thousands. They roared and communicated in a language incomprehensible to humans, tightening their encirclement and slowly devouring the human force. The human troops, already few in number, only 5 vehicles and over 20 individuals, had poor firepower, surrounded by a multitude of monsters. They were like fish in a barrel, firing desperately yet futilely. Wangqing's gaze flickered. His warship slowed down from a distance, entering stealth mode and advancing like a ghost. This time, however, he did not mobilize the main cannon. Instead, he activated the newly upgraded 44 missile launchers on his warship. Given the power displayed by the recently upgraded 600mm electromagnetic main cannon, firing it would not only obliterate the alien creatures on the ground, but also likely send the trapped humans flying. Therefore, Wangqing opted to launch missiles, relying on the warship's increasingly intelligent Level 7 assistance system for guidance, targeting the circle of alien creatures surrounding the humans. The surrounded individuals were indeed survivors and soldiers from Chun City. They had been discovered by the alien civilization and were encircled, nearly in despair. With their communication systems intermittently failing, they could not send out distress signals and could only wait in vain for their demise. However, what unfolded next exceeded their imagination. Countless missiles streaked through the sky at high speed, directly hitting the surrounding alien species. Terrifying explosions followed one after another, the deafening sounds resonating in the air. However, with just this one strike, at least 100 of the alien beings were killed, creating a breach in their encirclement. The group of survivors immediately seized the opportunity, boarding their vehicles at high speed and swiftly breaking through. They thought reinforcements had arrived and kept looking up at the sky, hoping to catch a glimpse of their side's fighter jets. But the sky was empty. There was no sign of military aircraft. Confusion spread across their faces. Who had saved them? Meanwhile, the command ship was changing course. 16 missiles were launched in rapid succession, unleashing formidable firepower. With a volley of missiles, anyone would be left crying out. The 7th-level warship had its firepower and performance significantly enhanced, and even the intelligent assistance system had progressed towards true intelligence. Yet, the commander furrowed his brow. The alien beings were not worth much. After firing 2 rounds of missiles, totaling 32, the surrounding alien civilization had been decimated, with countless corpses scattered everywhere. If not 1,000, then at least 800 were killed. However, the commander had only harvested a little over 400 energy points. If these missiles had not been provided by the military but had been printed by himself, the energy points would not even cover the consumption. Clearly, these alien civilizations were not valuable. The command ship returned to patrol the skies, circling the edge of Spring City Province, encountering several similar alien beings along the way. Although they were not worth much,